Magic. All right, I will call the Willington Board of Education meeting to order. It is Tuesday, December 2023. There is election of officers tonight, which is why I'm calling the meeting to order. This first item we have is pledge of allegiance, so if you'll join me. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
All right, so the next item is election of board officers. We'll go in order: chair, vice chair, and secretary, just so you know, process wise. Basically what happens is in your policy, it walks through these three positions. There's an explanation of what they are. Obviously the chair is the person that runs the meeting. The vice chair is the one that fills in if the chair is not there. And the secretary is basically the third person in line to that. As far as process goes for elections, you should try to, if you want to offer someone up as someone you want to nominate for chair or any of the positions, you should try and once you make a nomination, you should try and let others make a nomination before you make a second nomination, if you were going to do that, just out of being nice, I guess. You can nominate yourself. If you are nominated and you do not want it, you can decline. Okay, you don't have to accept the nomination. And so what will happen is I'll ask for nominations for chair. I'll ask that person if they will accept the nomination. If they accept the nomination, we'll continue through any other nominations. Then you'll have discussion on the nominations, whoever's up for just chair. I'll ask 3 times because that's what's in Robert's rules for process. Are there any more nominations? Any more nominations? We'll close it and then you'll vote, and it's majority. Okay, so whoever, it's not one at a time, it's just whoever's there. Okay, it's majority. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Questions?
Can the nominee vote for themselves?
Absolutely, yes. All right,
If you have 2 nominees, how does that work?
so whoever is there, if the first person gets the majority votes, it's over. There's no other,
The second person doesn't have.
nope,
Okay.
so it's majority. All right. So are there any nominations for chairman?
I nominate Arthur Christensen.
Arthur, do you accept that?
Yes.
Any other nominations?
I nominate Brianna Ross.
Accept that?
I do.
Any other nominations for chair? No other nominations? Feel free to discuss. Two of you probably, if you accepted your nominations, probably might want to say something. That would be my suggestion. That's up to you guys.
I didn't know you were in discussion.
Yes, you may discuss.
So if anybody knows what happened on second election day, I spent 11.5 hours in 30-degree weather outside the town hall, greeting anybody and everybody who came out to vote. And that's a fraction of my commitment to this position. And that's the commitment that I bring to being chair of this organization.
I was elected to this position to be on the Board of Education 2 years ago, and I've been being a part of it ever since. Learned a lot along the way. I care very much about the Willington students, staff, faculty, buildings, and so on. And I would be honored to take this new position as chair.
Any other discussion from any other members?
I think Brianna brings a lot to this position. As a kindergarten teacher, she has a profound understanding of the needs of children. And working every day with school policy and curriculum, she's living what we're doing.
And also having children that are now at the middle school, but in the high school, but who have gone through the system. I think she has a good understanding of, our school system and our board, and would serve as well.
And
I think that Arthur would make a great chair. I think it's a great asset that he's also on Region 19, which I'm also on, and we've been learning a lot about how they do their board. And, I think because we're in a system that's kind of sending a majority of our kids to that next level, that could be very helpful, for this board to know what to expect and to learn lessons from them and kind of see what they're looking for from our kids, and just have a little bit more experience with that.
anyone else? All right, now I'm gonna ask 3 times. Any more nominations? Any more nominations? Any more nominations? You have your chance. All right, so I'm gonna close nominations. And discussions. We'll let that person in, and we're gonna vote on the chairperson. So Arthur was first nominated, so I'm gonna put his name up first. So if you are voting for Arthur, just gonna go right through the list, okay? So Samantha, I'm coming to you first, and I'm just gonna go right around, okay? So it's either yes or no. Arthur Christensen for chair.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No,
No.
So if I have that right, 3 yes, 4 no. That fails. Brianna Ross for chair. Go right down the list again. Yes or no?
No.
Thank you.
No. No.
yes,
Yes.
Okay, so that's the opposite. So 4-3, so Brianna, you are elected chair by 1. You may take over, or you can let me finish this. It's up to you.
did you want to?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Help would be appreciated. Okay, it looks like, according to our agenda, we are on item 3B, the election of the vice chair. So we are ready for nominations for that position.
I nominate Arthur Christensen.
Thank you.
I nominate Jen Goodale.
Are there any others? Good. Oh, Arthur, would you accept?
Yes.
Jen, do you accept? I do. Okay, great. Are there any other nominations then? Okay, I guess we're ready to discuss.
Alright. I think that parity in this situation is very important. The board's a lot closer now. It's a 3-4 board, not a 5-2 board. And I think having a Democrat as the chair, it's important to have some parity in that and have a Republican as the vice chair, just to have a little bit of balance.
She is not technically a Democrat.
But she's endorsed with that.
Okay, Jen?
I think I appreciate the party distinctions. I feel like the group of us have a giant job in front of us and have to figure out how to work together all together. And I am willing and able to help to make that happen. And I have 5 kids in schools around here, so we need to serve. That's it.
Okay, are there anybody else want to discuss or any nominations for?
I have a
Oh, go
discussion.
ahead, Samantha.
Where I don't think that Jen wouldn't do a good job, I'm just questioning the lack of experience, so she's just a new board member. It seems like it might be, not, because I've noticed like you're here a lot, so not to say that you wouldn't not be here, but sometimes people miss meetings. I just think that it's a big responsibility for someone who's a first-time board member. It's just something to take into consideration.
Anybody else? Okay, are there any further nominations? Would anyone like to nominate someone else? This is your last opportunity if you'd like to nominate. Okay, then I think we're ready to vote. Sam?
Who are we voting
I'm
for?
sorry, we are voting to elect Arthur as our vice chair.
Yes.
And Jen. And Arthur.
Yeah.
And.
No.
And John,
Yes.
myself, no, Tracy?
No.
Thank you. And so that's 3, 4, and then we'll do Jen, so we're nominating Jen for vice chair, Samantha?
No.
And Jen,
Yes.
Arthur?
No.
Anne,
Yes.
John,
No.
Brianna, yes, Tracy.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen and Arthur. Congratulations, Jen. I'm sure that your previous experience in your career and your volunteerism will help you in that seat. Okay, then we are ready to find ourselves a secretary. We're accepting nominations at this time.
I nominate Arthur Christensen. On repeat.
I will nominate Tracy Anderson.
Arthur, do you accept your nomination?
No.
If you are accepted.
No.
And Tracy, would you accept?
Yes.
Would anyone else like to nominate someone? Then we're prepared to discuss. Tracy, did you want to say anything?
This is my 6th year, I think, or starting my 7th year of term here, so I've had a lot of experience, plus being, on the other side of the table as a board of, a PTA advocate and with the schools, I think I have the experience to, be the secretary.
Is there anything else anybody wanted to say, discuss?
Can I just ask what the role of the secretary is?
That's a good question. It is my understanding, based on what Mr. Stevens said a minute ago, is that in the event the chair is unable to do their duty, then the vice chair would take over, and then if they're not available, it would be the secretary's role at that point. Are there additional duties?
So there's 3 things listed on the policy: perform the duties of the chair of board meetings in the absence of both, as you said. Keep or cause to be kept a record of all board proceedings as required by state law. Kind of do that for you. And then supervise the clerk of the board's performance of duties. So making sure minutes are in, things like that. Typically, I think the secretary, if we are doing some complex motion, that's the person that would be writing that motion down and restating.
Like an executive session or something?
Could be anywhere.
And they time executive sessions, correct? They note
manage
the
things,
time
yeah.
in and out.
Now with.
Yeah.
It's
Recorded
documented
meetings.
for you, yeah.
Could that recording, I mean, I guess that's a question for the policy subcommittee, but maybe doing the recording activity might become something the secretary could take over.
You mean managing this?
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. All right, was there anything else anybody wanted to say?
Was there something that I remember about, the secretary being able to ask to have things put on the agenda? If it's not being put on, it hasn't been put on, but it's something they feel should be.
I think there's something about if they have asked the chair to put something to a special meeting to address something and the chair did not, then the secretary can plan a meeting, is that correct?
I think it's anyone can call a meeting if the chair, and it's very clearly written in the legal piece of this, but
Okay.
if it's not been called and you have asked and you have a certain number of people requesting it, you can do that.
Anybody can do that, not,
I believe so, I believe so. I would have to look at that again.
perhaps you would have.
I don't
to
know
the
that that's ever
secretary.
happened, but.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will review our policy regarding the responsibilities of the chair, vice chair, and secretary. That's the first thing on this to-do list over here. Okay, was there anything else anyone wanted to say or ask? Are there any other nominations?
I nominate Samantha Sperry.
Thank you. Samantha, did you accept? Have further discussion opportunity at this time.
So I was the recording secretary for Board of Finance for almost 2 years, so I'm well versed with that. And I recently got nominated for the secretary for the Region 19 position, so I've been doing that, so I have the experience.
Yeah, the reason I declined and nominated Sam is because she's actually now the secretary of Region 19, so she now has the experience of it, and I don't have that experience.
I was asking because I didn't know if it was the same role on different boards. I'm still learning about that, but.
Do you find it different? The definition and responsibility than what you're currently doing?
Not necessarily, no. So like we went into executive session and, I recorded that even though we do live streaming.
Mhm.
And I believe it is recorded for Zoom as well for playback. And then I keep track of who voted, the timing, like Anne had said, but not necessarily like recording the minutes like I used to do. So there's no like transcription or synopsis of the meeting or anything like that. So.
Great. Okay. Any other discussion? That count as one of my questions.
It counts as.
Wait, are there any other nominations for the position of secretary? Would anyone else like to nominate someone for that position? Okay, then we're gonna go ahead and vote on, Tracy becoming the secretary of our board. We'll start with Sam.
No.
Okay, and Jen,
No.
Arthur,
No.
Anne, John,
No.
Brianna, yes, Tracy.
No.
Okay, so do we need to continue?
You need to record your votes, yes.
Okay, we will continue that. All right, thank you. And so we're gonna vote to see if we'd like to elect Samantha as our secretary. Ms. Berry,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Arthur,
Yes.
Anne, yes, John,
Yes.
I will say yes, and Tracy.
Yes.
Thank you.
go.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard. We're glad to have you and your experience. That's great.
I like the parties and the sharing the leadership with both parties too. I think that's a very positive.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a bipartisan effort, but.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody, we can take a quick breath in and out. All right, we're moving on to item number 4, which is present to speak. The Board of Education always encourages questions and comments from the public. Please, if you'd like to share your thoughts and ideas, state your name and address for the record, and then just try to be mindful of the time for others. Thank you. So if you're online, you can raise your hand using the little icon there, and if you're in person, you can raise your hand yourself with your body. Anybody here in the room? Not at this time. Okay, looks like we have Carrie. Hi, Carrie. You got it done?
I did.
Oh,
Hi there.
she's- Hi.
Carrie Rainville, Potter School Road. Just a few updates from the PTA. Right now we have a holiday shop going on at Hall Memorial School this week. The gifts ranging for this holiday shop are from 25 cents to $12. We absolutely love watching these kiddos and their process on picking gifts for their loved ones. They're so excited. So that will be going on until Thursday at 2:30. That's when it will end. We have a staff cookie buffet for both Hall Memorial and Center School this coming Monday. We have a link out there on social media to sign up and donate baked goods for this event. If interested, please email us at membership.willingtonpta@gmail.com. This is for staff members, just an appreciation cookie buffet for them. And we want to extend our deepest gratitude to Center and Hall staff members, as well as community members who took the time to hand decorate ornaments for the town tree lighting. The PTA tree was so unique and so special. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was way more than I would have ever expected. So we can't thank you all enough for coming together to support such an amazing cause for that. And our next PTA meeting will take place this Thursday, December 14th at 6 p.m. at Center Elementary School in the library. And we would love to see you guys there. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak? Not seeing anything? Do you see anything? Is anybody?
No, I feel.
Okay, anybody in the room have anything to share? I'm not gonna ask that 3 times. Okay. All right, we're moving on to agenda item number 5, which is communications. Do we have anything?
So we had one, I sent it out today, somehow I had managed to delete it, my apologies, that's why I sent it today, it was just because we didn't have a chair. Mike McPoo, who is the chairman of the school building committee, sent out an email just with notifying the board of the final report. The final report is online. And there is a Willington Wire article that will be submitted on Friday. I'm waiting for 2 people to give me my final, Ann and Mike need to give me my final check, and then it'll be off. So you have a copy of the final report from the school building committee and his email. So that's communication.
Great, and so people can find that online as well. Great, okay, we're moving on to number 6, superintendent's report.
So the first thing, their board retreat and training, we are required to do board training, so Brenda's gonna be sending, we're gonna try something new. So Brenda's gonna send you a link to a Google form, and that Google form is gonna have all the dates on it. And you can just check with yes or no, which dates you can, and times you can do. You'll be able to see each other's responses, it's intentional. So that way, if you're like, oh, that could be a hard night, but everyone else can go that night, maybe I should just say yes. We're gonna try it out, see how it works. We tried some other things, other apps that were just loaded with ads. It was a nightmare. So she's set on the Google form, we'll see how it goes. So that's gonna be coming out. The training will be done by the board attorney, who is Christine Chinny. And I am looking at a CABE training as well, but I'm also looking at our dollars. Chinny is off of a retainer, whereas CABE would be money we'd have to put forward, so I'm a little cautious of that right now. You probably know why and what we're talking about in budget. So the second thing that's on there is the budget calendar, which you should have in front of you. So this is the budget workshops. Brenda emailed you the dates for the budget workshops in January. Please make sure these are on your calendar and note that these workshops, same thing, same spot here, 6 p.m. is the start time. If you want to use the same format as prior years, this is the format. What you see on screen right now, this is the order we go through the programs. I don't have the bottom part of this, which was in yellow on mine, but it's just kind of shaded on your paper. Those dates I don't have out of the selectman's office or the board of finance yet. This is like, a lot of it is statute. They just work backwards from when the reference to be. That's you. It's a pain because you might have to hit escape. Yes, perfect. So once I have those, I'll give you these, but I just want to make sure that you knew those that was there, and does anybody have any issues with that setup?
No, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Did we last time take the opportunity to have questions? So for example, on the 24th, if we had any questions about what we discussed on the 17th, did we do it that way? at the
Yes.
beginning?
When we do the agenda, basically what will happen is I'll do, for the 17th, I'll do a high level overview, and then I'll do those 3 programs. You can ask questions for any of those 3 programs. And then the start of the second meeting on the 24th, the first thing on the agenda will be, what do you want to review from last time? Because it's gonna be your first look at it on the 17th, so you're gonna take it home, you're gonna review it, and you're gonna go, hey, I have some more questions about center school, we'll deal with that first, or hall school, we'll deal with that first, and then we'll go into the remainder of the programs, and then we'll do, you can ask any questions, same thing on the 31st. Any program that's already been addressed, you'd be able to ask questions, and typically there's, for, president to speak in both of those as well.
Great, okay, good. That was helpful, because it is a lot to look at and digest, especially for a first time.
Yeah, and the 13th is only if we need it. If you are super happy with the agenda or with the budget, then you just have your regular meeting that night and you vote on it that night.
Super happy with the budget, you say. All right, moving on.
I'm a little nervous about that, to be honest with you. Oh, I'll give you good news because I had the health insurance, Selectman Tanaka and I had our meeting about health insurance yesterday. This is really early. It never happens this early. They came in and said, we just got our email. We have a 0% increase for our health insurance. Because we need that really bad. It is very incredible. Yes, and I'm hoping, and so are they, that it actually might come down, so we will see. Yes. Fingers crossed. Staffing. We currently have 1 open position, that's the staff support specialist at Hall School. Well, I can stop sharing this. Jeez. We haven't had the applicants, but I'm also not gonna fill that position right now. I'm just, if I can save that money because of the budget crunch that we're in, I'm not gonna fill that. If things start looking up and someone applies, I'll reconsider that, but just so you know, I'm not looking to fill that position at this time. It's the only one that's open.
Can you just say what position that is again?
It's the staff support specialist. It's what we used to call the utility staff member.
Oh, okay.
So that position was filled early on at center.
Yep.
It's very Ringel. We didn't have applications for hall. We had some come in, they just were no shows. And so just because where the budget is, I just not gonna do anything with it right now. So. The facility study, I spent about a little over 4 hours with QA and M. We walked through center and hall schools on December 5th. They're the ones that are doing the facility study for us. They took a lot of pictures of things that they wanted to include in their report. They are processing all the information that they collected. They asked a ton of questions. I walked through with both of our facilities crew, so Matt Jensen at center and Steve Folino at Fall. They had their subs with them because they have subs for exterior and I think it was electrical. So they were all asking questions, IT related, all those things. So I will be connecting with them before the holiday break. They're basically just going through all the data they collected. So they are getting plans from us. They'll have all the information that they need. And then I'll let you kind of keep you posted as we go forward, okay? The school building committee final report, I kind of already mentioned that. It went to you today and it's on our district website. The reading waiver, this was a biggie for us. So and I emailed this out to you, our reading waiver was not approved by the state. There were 83 districts that applied for a reading waiver. 17 received a yes. I have a meeting with the state on Thursday, and that's really to next steps. It looks like we're gonna have to make some sort of change to our K-3 core reading program. It's not the end of the world. It's pretty disappointing though. So we're in the process of reviewing all of the state approved, and I say all, there's like 10 now. 10 different programs that they've identified. The struggle for me is that there are people that are doing these programs and it hasn't changed their scores at all, but it's just the law now. It's a little bit of madness and very, very frustrating. They grouped the waivers into 4 areas. And we were told we had 3 out of the 5 areas and that we don't know if we can do anything about our waiver still. It's not clear. It's about as clear as mud, to be honest with you. My frustration is it was supposed to come out on Friday morning. I got the email at 7:30 at night. On a Friday night. Wasn't so pleased with the state about that. And the process that they went through. Just across the board, they were building the plans, they were flying it, so I get it, they're shorthanded. But we were told you're either getting the waiver or you're not, and they broke it into 4 sections. It was just really disappointing, the communication that came out, so I don't have any more to tell you. I don't know our next steps at this point, other than the letter that they said, you have to follow this by July 1, 2025. So I have a superintendent meeting on Thursday. It will be discussed. I have a meeting with the state on Thursday just to talk about our waiver. And I have a meeting with the commissioner's office on Friday, our superintendent's group does. And I guarantee that's gonna be a hot topic. When only 17 get a waiver, there's an issue. So some things, we'll see where it goes. The good news out of that, and this is one of the reasons I'm meeting with them on Thursday, is there's 2 grants that I have not applied for yet because it was dependent on the waiver. Is now that we have not gotten our waiver, we can apply for funds to help us purchase whatever we need to meet their requirements. So we think it's gonna be enough money, which is good. Again, one of the frustrating things is the funds that they're putting forward is to purchase a program that's a K-3 program. Well, we're a K-8 district and a curriculum that aligns pre-K through 8th grade. So that's gonna be one of my battles with them to say, what do you expect us to do 4th through 8th? So we are reviewing those programs. We're going through pros and cons of each. There are pros and cons for each. We're getting feedback from other districts that are already using those programs or have been using those programs. We're looking at ed reports, which ranks those programs. And I will be bringing something probably to you as a full board in February. And the curriculum committee will probably meet sometime in January to look at what we've pulled together for information, to review whatever program we, the admin team, the teachers recommend we move forward with. So it doesn't decimate all the work that we've done, but it definitely adds more work. The PD, professional development we've done around UFly, still there. Letters, still there. The writing workshop, still there. It's just a matter of now aligning it with something else versus what we had. So very interesting process.
What did they say we were lacking?
So it was the same 2 things that they reported on last time was comprehension vocabulary. We, again, process, and I don't mean to show my frustration in this. Our waiver was 65 pages and we were given, they had our waiver for months and months and months and months. It was evaluated by an outside agency. That outside agency, when we sat down and met with them, we started talking and they said, oh, just realize that the 2 people that you're meeting with might not have read your waiver. That was slightly frustrating. And then from that point moving forward, we were not allowed to submit additional details. We can only share our screen to do our presentation. There was nothing to give to them. So if we made changes or they said, you need more information in comprehension and vocabulary, how you're teaching that systematically, we could only share it on screen. And whatever we gave them in 25 minutes and they didn't ask a lot of questions and just stared at us, that's frustrating. So it was a very interesting process. And it's going to be interesting. The email that we received from our superintendent's group was very much aligned with legal action. Meaning districts should prepare themselves if they're gonna fight, because it's new. And again, there's pros that are gonna come out of this for sure. The funding that's there is a pro. It doesn't mean that we didn't have some things we need to update in our curriculum, just like we always do. But your local control is just like out the door. It's really frustrating, so, yeah, that's where we're at with the reading waiver. So we will see where it goes. I have a spreadsheet of all of the comments and things we'll pull together, so.
I had a question and, are we currently redoing our curriculum right now, or we just did?
Phonics and ELA was approved recently and it's sitting in the library and there's already revisions happening.
Spoke on it, so like not, is completely null and void or?
It's not completely null and void. It's gonna take some revisions and now we're gonna, depending on my meeting on Thursday and based upon the response that I got from the state already, I do think they're gonna make us buy a program. And then how we utilize that program is gonna be interesting. And what we're allowed to do. So they basically, there's two ways they did this, is they gave basically approximately 10 programs that were approved and it started at 5 or 6 or 7 and it's grown a little bit. Some of them are from 2016, although the science of reading research is probably 2019, 2020. So how those match it, I'm not quite sure. You could use one of those programs or you can use a compendium of other things that they've identified. For example, you could use, what are you guys using? I put you on the spot, sorry. I can.
Into reading, HMH.
So I'll give you a different example. So Into Reading could be a program as your core, and then you could use 4 other programs that they've identified working together you can use. But it's not like a menu, like you can select, they've already set that for you, like this is the group you have to use together. Kind of pretty much against that because it's 4 brand new programs, 5 brand new programs. So I have more questions than I have answers, to be honest with you. Again, this is, 17 districts got the nod and very big districts.
I bet the priority too. Just about.
Many of them were.
Yeah. 2 questions. Number 1, when you talked about those 4 supplementals, are they letters and science of reading and things that?
They are they're science of reading. The things that they have in there are tied to science of reading.
Okay.
It's just a matter of, I'm not gonna introduce a bunch of new programs, like UFly and TWR are not gonna go anywhere.
Right.
It's just a matter of how we utilize them with whatever core program we have.
Because we've done training for,
Thousands,
4 or
thousands of
5
dollars.
years now.
Yes,
The other thing is, are these programs like basals?
so there's a
Are
couple
we
basils in
talking
there.
like
There are a couple basils in there and you'll hear me say, I'm gonna be, not recommending a basil.
Yeah.
Um,
Basil being just the old C. Dick, Ron and CJ
Yeah,
and those
not-
kind of books.
I'm not gonna recommend that.
Yeah.
Again, but we have to evaluate those and, we'll see where it goes. How people are going to respond, I think I'll find out a lot more by
Yeah.
Friday. But we're in with Glastonbury. So obviously Glastonbury has just a wee bit more resources than we do. And when we're in with them, and they're in the same boat, he's been pretty vocal. So we'll see. I have no idea. They told us not to compare to other districts. It's just a very, very interesting process. So,
I'm glad that the grant would cover whatever we need to purchase additionally.
yes, I really hope they allow us to go, if it's $40,000 to buy a core program. For K3, I really hope they allow us to use the other amount of money to continue it, because typically you do see a pre-K5 or a pre-K4 or an elementary type program, maybe through 6, and then a 7, 8 separate. The core reading program at the K3 levels, the one that's really tied to science of reading, it's where we need kids reading by 3rd grade. That's where all the data is coming from. That's what the science of reading is all about. But it's been an interesting process, so stay tuned.
Bill, is that the right to read? Is that what's considered right to read, that program, or?
Well, one of them is, that's one of the programs that's approved, is that what you're saying?
Okay, no, I just wonder, yeah, okay. That makes sense.
It's tied to the legislation is basically what it is.
Are those type programs a one-time purchase or is it a yearly renewal?
So some of them are one-time purchase, you do your big PD, you get all your materials. Some of them have, things like workbooks that you can, that become an annual purchase, things like that. It depends on the program.
Oh, yeah.
The big purchase for some of these, and we've purchased so many books, our books are tied to your curriculum, what you have. So if you buy a new program, you need the books to go with it. So more books is not a bad thing. It's just a matter of making sure, and I haven't shared a ton of details with staff yet because I really am sharing information that just background with you. I don't have a lot of information other than a letter that said you didn't get your waiver at this point in time, so.
And that's not to say that we don't do comprehension of vocabulary enough or well.
Correct.
It's just that the people at the state who don't work with children every day in a classroom setting think we don't do it their way. It's
They also
really
didn't see
frustrating.
our entire curriculum.
Right.
That wasn't what we were submitting. We were submitting a waiver and the rubric for the waiver came out after the waiver.
Yeah, and the programs are tricky too, because you do often have to buy like a bundle, like you can't just get the teacher's manuals or have access to the online program. You have to get the big books and the little books and all the other little books and the vocabulary cards and the picture, like they have a very nice business going on there, these people, yeah. Samantha, would you?
Was there any reason, bless you, as to who didn't receive the waivers? Like, was it correlated to test scores or? 'Cause I was sitting with the Glastonbury women, at the CAPE meeting and they had said that their test scores were very high.
And they didn't get
And
their
they
waiver.
didn't get the waiver.
Figure that one.
But I
Those
was just
districts have gotta be
wondering
livid.
if there was any rhyme or reason for who got it and who didn't.
If it didn't meet whatever criteria they had, that was what it was. So there are people that didn't get a waiver that had, their test scores were very high already. So they're obviously getting results somehow.
From that
You-
metric, yeah.
Why would they not get a waiver? I don't know. It's really an interesting process. There are probably just as many districts that did nothing, meaning so of the around 160 districts in the state, around 80 didn't do anything, didn't submit a waiver. So they either already had one of the programs or they were in the wait and see, let's see what happens mode. It'll be interesting to see how those come forward. So, but some of the dollars that you need to buy a program, I mean, in a big district, it's a lot of money. So I don't know if they have enough funds or not. We will see.
I have a question.
Yes.
Ryan, and I'll say something too. So you said you have to refile again by July 2025?
We have to apply, basically meet the state law by July 1, 2025.
So we have a year and a half to make adjustments.
And they want us to basically be easing into that next year, July 1, 2024, whatever that looks like, which is why I said, I'd like to have a program in front of you February, because we need to figure out the PD portion of it. You need to approve it. We need to order it and get it in time. And guess what? Everybody in the state is probably doing the same thing. So I don't want to get stuck on resources if we have to order something.
And if we need to budget anything,
Thankfully, at this point, I don't think so. But again, it's very early in the process. I can't guarantee that. I can't guarantee it. And what we've spent on professional development the last 3 years, that's been grant funded, that's been really important to me, it's been really important to staff. We have spent tens of thousands of dollars on PD because that's building capacity in teachers makes a difference. And I'm gonna recommend that same thing here. If we are gonna have to buy a program, we have to have good PD for it. So we'll see where it goes.
It's also a time commitment, the PD is.
There is a time commitment.
Yeah.
It's later in the agenda. It's later in the agenda. Can I move along? All right, so the chimney, no condition changes in the chimney, all that rain this weekend. Thankfully, Samantha emailed me that she has an electrician. I'm probably gonna take you up on that just to see what your thoughts are. She had emailed me, a connection that someone may come out to, because the wires are connected to the chimney, to look at options. Because part of the reason we're struggling to get it wrapped is no one wants to deal with that. It's not worth their time and money, to work around the wires. So I'm gonna be calling. The other part of that, we did have some leaks in the PE office, and the folks that just toured with me recently. I think they're, you saw where some of the issues are. And there's a neighboring office next to the gym that also had a leak that was in center school. It was the only leaks we had this weekend. I'm having Silktown come out. I don't want it to be raining in someone's office. It's just not right to do. So we're gonna see if we can fix those things. It's gonna be a couple $1,000s. We'll do it within our budget, but sometimes you have to do things maintenance wise, even when it's a tight budget. We just have to do those things. So I will keep you posted on that. A couple exciting upcoming events. The chorus concert, chamber concert is Wednesday, tomorrow. That's at 6:30 at Ball School. Phil Stevens was really nervous. I'm gonna be honest, last Friday night at the tree lighting, we had close to 100 kids attend the tree lighting. It's the most we've ever had. It was incredible. Huge shout out. I called Jimmy and let him know how nervous I was I didn't want people crossing 74 in the dark. I just didn't want a tragedy. The fire folks did an amazing job. Volunteering their time, getting everybody parking on the green. The kids did an amazing job singing. It was just a great night. Thanks to the teacher, Spencer Sonnenberg. He did an amazing job. It was a fun community event. So big shout out to all of them. And then the band and jazz concert is Thursday, same time, same bed channel, 6:30 at Hall School in the gym. Let's see, what else do we have here? The school roof projects. I have news for this. So you know that the office school construction gave me kind of, not much of an answer. They had canceled our project. They didn't meet my expectations. I asked for a conversation with the commissioner several times. I got really bland emails back, just really, the state's not making me so happy lately. Your state rep, Tammy Nuccio, reached out to me. We had talked after the failed school referendum. We sat down with her. It was supposed to be her and Jeff Gordon and Erica and I, and Jeff couldn't attend. But just talked to Tammy about the reimbursement rate, the process and things. Imagine that. She was able to get a meeting with the commissioner. A little frustrated that I couldn't, but I'll take it. So I'm going to be meeting with Tammy and the commissioner. Thursday is gonna be my day where I'm meeting with the state, so that's Thursday. And we're gonna talk about the reimbursement rate for projects and kind of where we're at. And then we're also gonna talk about the canceled roof projects. Because the ex-director is the one that canceled them in June of 21. It's gonna cost the town, the taxpayers, more money now because costs have gone up. We could have had the roofs done and we would not be in the spot we're in. So I'll keep you posted on that, but I'm grateful that she was willing to do that. And, if we can get a higher reimbursement rate, that's great. If we can't, at least they can hear us and what the real boots on the ground are feeling. Because they just shut us down. They just didn't, I can, show you all the emails from them that are just flat. Thank you very much for your time. You can resubmit your applications. That's not what I'm asking. So there's that. Here's the other fun thing. So we had to bring in Admiral Septic last week due to a blockage at Hall School. They spent the day at HMS clearing the blockage and noted that the interior of the pipes were rusting and because they're old and they're basically just snagging. Items are snagging on the rusted pipes. And so I expect a report from them in the next week or so. Thank goodness we have a relationship with them. Thank goodness they were able to get out there because it was filling the locker rooms. Not so pretty. So, again, something that we have to consider for CIP. They've done that similar work for us. They did more work at Center for us, but they've done work for us at Hall too. So stay tuned on that. It's never a fun call. I get that phone call. I just don't like it.
Were we told that they, were on borrowed time with both septic systems?
We
They
did
did what they
a
could.
lot more work at center.
Yeah.
But not so much at Hall. We cleared cell phones and other stray items out of the septic. Scoped, yeah. They did a lot of scope work for us. They fixed a couple spots where when it goes into the leach fields, the things had been crushed. And so they had repaired some of those, but we are on borrowed time for sure. You can't fix the interior of pipe, so.
So I was there at Hall when all that was going down. I just want to say the two custodians that were running around trying to solve it when it was happening were doing a great job, and they were keeping it low key and trying to get everything done while basketball practice was also happening.
Yes, yeah, always fun,
Mhm.
yeah, so. That's my superintendent's report, really exciting one today.
Can I ask a question about that roof?
Absolutely.
conversation? Are there any problems that we have now that we can say are because we were not able to replace the roof when we should have or wanted to? I mean, I know that's not an absolute.
Probably not. I mean, do we have some more ceiling tiles that are stained? Maybe. We did a lot of patching and the Silktown roofing has saved us. If that patchwork had not worked, we would have had significant issues. We would have had to figure out a way to do a new roof right away. But I don't think so. That is the good thing. But we were on borrowed time.
For sure. We're borrowing a lot, huh? Okay.
We are.
All right, we are,
Brianna,
yes, sir, go. I'm sorry, Erica, go ahead.
So, Phil, do you have the old RFP for the roof projects?
Mhm.
Is that all just ready to go as soon as we can?
Don't even need to, so what I'm hoping they're gonna say is that I don't have to submit, that I just have to get an updated price. Because all of the application is still there. The plans don't change, all of those things. So the only thing that we didn't end up doing is we never went out to bid for construction. So all the work that we did with our owner's project manager and with the engineers and architects, like all the design is there. It's just a matter now of resubmission, but cost. So when it's, goes from 900,000 for one roof to 1.6 million, we're eating that. And so I have to submit, you have to have the updated price. So that's the part that, we'll probably just use the same company. They already have all the materials, but I need a budget for that. But once we can turn our application around probably very fast. But I need OSCGR to help us make sure we have everything and they understand that we're not jumping through a bunch of hoops because we've already done the process.
Right, so we have a company lined up, Phil, you're not back out to bid, it's just gonna be who we had before.
So we never went out to bid for construction.
Right.
So all the work to that point, you don't go out to bid for construction until you have your approval. So we got our approval and we were getting ready to put our RFPs out and that's when they shut it down. So we would have to, because you don't want to do any work before you get your approval, because then it's not reimbursable.
Okay.
So we have to get that approval first again for both roofs, 2 separate projects. Once we get that, then we do the RFP and get things going. So.
To add to what he had said, I thought you had said that we already had a company in place that had the materials. What was that in reference to? For the patches?
Patching probably, Silktown is probably the one for patching.
Would be, right, but we
But
weren't.
they have to, for construction, it has to go out to bid. We've never done that, that's part of the
Okay, I
process
must
we
have-
have to do. The people that we have on board right now, like, I mean, we could call Colliers and just get them on board real quick to make sure we have everything. So they were our owner's project manager. The architect is escaping me, sorry.
O&M.
No. The architect, all that stuff should be done, and it's just literally just a matter of getting the pricing updated. Cause that's part of your application. So,
So to get the pricing, don't you have to put an RFP out?
no, they do it based upon square footage. They look at the plans and they,
The architect does?
whoever did the pricing last time, and I think it is an architect, yes. And then what happens is when the bids come in, they have to fall within what the pricing is part of the process.
What happens if the bids come in over budget of what the architect?
Then they go back out and you have to work with the state and figure out how to move forward. Pricing is pricing, right? I think, I've heard materials are coming back, which is good, so it's, could be faster. I'm just really interested to see what happens on Thursday. We're at like 63% right now. It'd be nice to get up, to 70 and have them cover the difference that is from what we would have, if we'd done the roof at that time compared to the cost today. So I'll know more once how to move forward from there. But the application with all the plans, all that stuff is basically just up for resubmission. But you typically meet with OSC, the Office of School Construction Grants Review. You typically meet with them before you submit your application. So that way you're not getting shut down like some other district just recently did.
And we would go through the town meeting, like a referendum?
Yes,
process?
so we have to go back through and you have to, if they change the dollar amount,
Right, okay,
if they keep the dollar amount the same, this is part of my argument. If we keep the dollar amount the same, the town already approved it.
right.
If they say, nope, doesn't matter, we're changing the cost is changing. We have to go back to town meeting to approve that dollar amount again, because that's part of their process. We would have to do that. Unless they gave us special permission, which is statutory, I don't think they will.
What if the dollar amount goes down? Do you still have to go back? Not that it would.
I don't think so, because as long as it's covering, that's what they want. They want covering.
It's like a not to exceed.
Yes, that's what I was
Right,
thinking.
and it's before, they do it before reimbursement, so,
Mhm.
the cost of the town could be $600,000. But the number in the referendum was just like the school project, it'd be like 1.3 million,
Right.
that's how it would be in the town meeting. Which is another goofy state process that's not clear for taxpayers, so.
Anything else on that topic? All right, awesome. We're ready to go to 7, financial report.
This one's gonna be fast because I'm gonna be honest, we didn't spend too much money. I mentioned this last meeting, this is a bleak budget. It jumps off the page at you. I did not make copies of this because it's on screen. I sent this out. Just look at program 3, it's $566,000 in the hole today. Again, I just remind you, that's today. We planned for 2 outplacements and then 2 happened after the budget. They were unknown, so we have 4 currently. If we get another one, that just keeps going up. So the only thing I will say about the budget right now, all the grants are applied except for our excess cost grant, which is tied to special ed. So for new folks that are new on the board, anything over approximately $90,000 for a student that's outplaced or for special ed costs, anything over $90,000, which is about 1% of our budget, we start to get some reimbursement back on that, if it's for transportation or education. So if the cost of the outplacement is $150,000, it's $60,000 over the 90. We get about 75% of that money back from the state. So we're expecting, we think we're gonna get about $300,000 back from the state from excess costs by the end of the year, if nothing changes. So this special ed overage would be, minus, I should say plus, because it's plus 300%, $300,000. So you'd be about 266 in the hole. Again, that's the non-lapsing account that we're banking on. And again, that's if nothing else is spent, this is gonna be really tight. So, the spending on, I've asked the principals, it's gonna get even tighter January 1 when we return. We have already encumbered the things that we need to, we think we need to encumber. The thing that is the struggle is some of the supplies get hurt in this. So I will try and make sure whatever we're ordering is really needed or find grant funds that are not already applied to budget. That's just not a lot of money though, you know, if it's raining in the school, we have to fix the roof. That's the money that I'm approving right now, but it was very, we did not spend a lot of money from the last meeting, so.
Okay. We're moving on to number 8, new business. First item here is to approve the regular meeting minutes of November 2023. So I think we need a motion to do that. Anybody interested?
I move that we approve the meeting minutes from November of 2023, the date is 14th.
I'll second that.
Do we need to talk about it?
Can I just make a comment?
Yes.
So just, from an approval perspective, even if you, whether it's a committee meeting or you did not attend, it doesn't mean you agree with the minutes, it just means that you're sending them along and they're off. You're not gonna make any changes, so if you did not attend, thus several of you did not attend, you could still vote on it, you don't have to abstain, if that makes sense.
Anybody have anything they wanted to add? No, it was super meeting, okay. So, I guess we are gonna vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes of November 14th, 2023, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Great, anybody nay? No, abstention 3. All right, we'll pass those on, thank you. Moving on, Board of Education meeting calendar.
So this is the 13-month calendar. This is statutory. You have to approve a 13-month calendar. It's this, hopefully we got this right, is every, Tuesday, it's the second Tuesday of the month. So this basically just goes off to the town clerk's office, but it does need your approval, to do that. So there's your 13-month calendar.
I have one question, October, having an early closing on the 4th, is there any reason it's the 4th and not the 11th? With that.
I think you're on the calendar. I'm on the,
You're on the meeting.
I'm on the, yeah, calendar
Sorry.
meeting, yeah.
Okay. Jumping ahead here.
Anybody have comments, questions, birthdays we should know about? All right, thank you. No. Okay, so then, do we need a motion to approve?
You do.
Anybody?
I'll motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the Board of Education meeting calendar at this time, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those nays, abstention. Great. Thank you. All right, we are on to the center's plumbing funding request.
So this is, you already approved the funds for the HMS project, the plumbing project. Each school was assigned $20,000. Center School is now requesting their $20,000 that was set aside in the capital improvement project budget. This does not impact your operating budget. So the numbers I just gave you, this is separate. So process for this is that you would approve this. It would then go to, I would present it to the Board of Finance, they would approve it. They would request the Board of Selectmen call a town meeting. Selectmen would have to call a town meeting, the town meeting would occur, the vote would happen. If it passes a town meeting, the money is then there, okay? So, some items require town meeting and some do not. This happens to be in an account that requires a town meeting, so there's extra steps. So here are the requests, and some of these items are tied to bigger picture, long-term things that you would see in CIP. They are requesting the full 20,000 and as we lived with a prior plumbing project at Hall, they've put these in order of how they'll complete them. Meaning if suddenly they go to replace something and they find a bigger problem, they might not get to project 3, if that makes sense. because they need the funds to finish project one. So there's an expected cost and there is a buffer of a couple $1,000s in here. But the idea here is that they would be fixing the things in that, so 4 classroom sinks and countertops. Obviously, you have to do the countertop if you're putting that new sink in. It does not include the cabinetry, it's just the sink and the top, the faucet and the shut-offs. I think there's one that already has shut-offs, the other 3 do not. So that would be project 1. Project 2 is the women's restroom by the cafeteria. You can see that the laminate flooring in there is not looking so good, and there's some sort of leak that's on the bottom of the toilet there. That would be for the new toilet, plumbing and floor. What I'll tell you is, if the plumber goes in and the toilet is taken off the wall and it's still in good shape and it was something that we don't need a new toilet, we're not gonna buy a new toilet. It's just how this is gonna work. But if it's the pipes going in and where we can see it's just a gasket or something, we're gonna not replace the toilet, if that makes sense. But we have a suspicion that this has been here a while, this toilet's been here a while, so we need to make sure that it's done right. And then the last one is there's, number 3 is a wall hung toilet. This is the boys' room. And if you look at the picture on the left, you can see where like the tile is dry. And then on the back of the wall, the tile is darker. It's just dripping and it's not, you know, yes, it's not sewage. It's clean water. We're trying to figure out where it's come from. We've changed, rings, but that has to come off the wall and fix it. So again, identify the issue. This could be a big one, just like Hall School was. It was the pipe that was in the wall that was the issue, not the actual toilet itself. At Hall, it was a urine. So I hope we get to this one. I hope it's not a monster. That would be the order of the projects that would be completed one at a time to make sure we're working within that budget. And there's a sample motion there for you if you so choose.
I have a process question.
Sure, yeah.
So I see that project number 1 is 11,388, made up of 4 different classroom sinks. I know in some municipalities, if it's over like 10 grand, you have to get 3 quotes for it. Is
Yep.
that applicable here?
It is, it's done.
We
Yeah,
already
so
did that.
he, to get his quotes, that's where he's in, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's 10K our number.
So 5,000 is 2, I think, and 10,000 is 3. And then anything, I think it's over 21, I don't remember the exact number, is like RFP or going out or off the state bid list.
Do we do 3 off of like the DAS pre-qualified or?
We look at those, and to be honest with you, it depends on the trade.
Okay.
Certain trades are the chimney. Masons are really, really hard to find. Plumbers don't want small jobs. They don't want a couple $1,000 jobs. They want a $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 plus job. And so we actually, the last time, we just actually had Benjamin Franklin come in because they were accessible. They'll come in, they'll answer our call. So they came in, they did some work, but we've used a variety of vendors. This is not stuff that, you need a specific, they don't need to know our system, if you know what I mean. HVAC.
Right, I know we have, like MCOR as an on-call and they have our preventative maintenance contract
Correct.
for HVAC. I know they have plumbers, do we use them? I know, although you mentioned Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, we found there's certain things, and I don't wanna throw Encore under the bus, but there's certain things that we found where, electricians and plumbers cost us more money if we go through them.
Okay,
And they're aware of that.
right,
So sometimes they'll just say, look, we're not gonna bid on that project just because they're on bigger projects, and for us to bid on it, it's gotta be worth our while. I appreciate their honesty, and so they don't, commit to that. So we've done projects with MCOR where we've had a local electrician do the electrician work.
Yeah.
And then MCOR has done the rest of the work. the
okay,
HVAC side, so, but yes, we follow that, we have it's like a purchasing, policy.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Arthur, yeah.
So on project 3, 2,600 and it has mainly toilet or not, so can you tell me how you came to the $2,600 figure with as many unknowns as there are in that project?
I think they quoted straight time to identify, but I don't have the quote in front of me, so I don't know that, but I have quotes for all of these things. I can go back and look, but it's there.
Well, I'm just concerned because the restroom of the cafeteria that needs a new toilet is already, it's $1,000 more than the one that may or may not, so it's kind of a question of, is it going to cost the extra 1,000? Do we have any, I know you don't know, but I'm just curious how the figure came about, that's all.
Some of the stuff too, and I don't know if this is factored in, we have the gym flooring. So if they have to do new flooring, we have the flooring and there's no cost to it.
Mhm.
So they're just installing it, things like that, and I know gym flooring in the bathroom, but it's actually worked out very well in the other bathroom, which is why we're considering that. It just depends on those things. It's the plumbing unknowns.
Okay.
But we have that, Matt Jensen for all of these. He's got all these quotes for me.
So how does it work if we get to item 3? We get there with, okay, we have the $2,500. Wait, we open the wall, it's $4,000. How do we get that extra?
So typically in the past, I'll just send a communication to you and say, look we're into this. We either have to leave it off the wall and close the pipes up for now and not have a toilet there for a while, or if I need an additional $1,800 or whatever it is, because the CIP budget is only 20,000, I would find money for it in our maintenance budget, to finish the project. And that's the risk of $20,000 doesn't go a long way in plumbing. But I'll take every 20,000 we can get to fix the things that we need to fix. So just going through that would be my process.
Okay.
And could you go to the Board of Finance if we did not have the money left?
I
in the
wouldn't
budget?
right now, and the reason why is because if they might be able to increase it, they just don't like to change our budget number. So I think they'd have to just fund it separately, just pay for it. But where there's always caution, if it's something that's considered to be added to our funds, added to our budget, it changes how we report out. Yeah, yes,
And then the
correct,
next year's budget, right?
Correct.
Okay.
correct. So we try to avoid those things.
Mhm.
But it is something they could do, especially because it's not a CIP. If we have to go to them for funds for special ed, they can't do that. They would have to put money into the education portion of the budget, and our budget would have gone up.
Thank you.
Okay, so if we're ready, there's a sample motion on the bottom there. If someone would like to make that.
I move the Board of Education request the Board of Finance to request the Board of Selectmen call a town meeting to appropriate $20,000 from the Capital Reserve Fund to 04-4049 CES plumbing projects.
Second. So anything else to talk about there? What ifs, right? We could come up with like 1,000 million more what ifs, but let's just take what we got. Okay, all in favor of said motion, signify by saying aye.
I,
And nays, abstentions otherwise. All right, we will pass that and hope for no ifs.
Yeah, I think that meeting I'm gonna try and get on the agenda for the 21st. They are gonna meet on the 21st. Because I believe there's another item that's going to town meeting, so I wanted to jump on that, so thank you.
Great. Okay. Let's look at the school calendar.
So this is a draft of a 24-25 school calendar. I worked with the superintendents in Ashford, Mansfield, Region 19. We typically run things through Columbia as well. We've already met, we talked about things. There are a lot of similarities, there are some differences, and the only differences really fall because of contracts. So the number of professional development days someone might have, or the total number of student days, those things change. But we aligned our vacations, we aligned, where we have staff development days if we want to share, things like that. So let me just walk through the calendar really fast. So the first SD, and then 28. those are 3 days that would not be with students, it'd be staff development, and the 28th is typically the meet and greet. It's the day before school starts, and then there would be 2 days, so it's kind of easing into the school year. It has worked out very well, I think people appreciate it, so 2 student days, you get the holiday on the Monday, and then you have 4 days, and then you go into a full week. I do have in here, you asked about professional development. We had, I believe it's 6 half days this year. I'm requesting a total of 9 for next year. One of them really, it doesn't count in my eyes because it's the last day of school. So I would say there's 8 half days in there built in for professional development. Based upon the reading conversation, I think we're gonna need it. And it's been very, very useful and highly requested by the teaching staff, highly requested. So you see any of those circles in yellow, that's where we've tied in, we've put a half day, try to do 1 each month. We have in October put the staff development day next to a holiday. Might not be great for staff that way, but we believe that it works and it's also better for families. So people are more likely, we're trying to discourage people taking vacations during the school days. So if you give them a longer weekends, maybe they will take them there as opposed to during a school day. So that becomes a 4-day weekend for students. Okay, November, you have the circles are half days for conferences, and then the day before Thanksgiving is always a half day, that's the 27th, a holiday, and then the vacation day on Friday. I will tell you that my principals have had some conversations about potentially getting some feedback on changing those conference days. I don't know how much feedback they've received. It's a lot on teachers that week, obviously, because they're prepping, it's Thanksgiving, they're, doing their home stuff, but they're also doing conferences. One of those nights is late. They were potentially asking to move that later, so maybe could it be a week later, the 4th, 5th, 6th, where we already have the half day? I will tell you that the prior boards of many, many years ago, the half days were all over the place. So the conferences and PD days where November felt like you never went to school. They adjusted it to what you basically see now, minus the half day on the 1st. And I have not gotten a lot of flack from parents about the current setup. So I've asked the administrators to get some feedback on that. I think they're gonna poll parents, see if anybody felt strongly about it. And they're gonna poll their teachers to see if anybody felt strongly about it, with the potential of, if you wanted to change the 2 half days on the 25th and 26th, make those full days. And move the conference dates, because that's what those half days are. It's the only way you can get them in to another time. If that makes sense.
I have one suggestion. I believe report cards come out after conferences, so maybe they could put the conferences after the report cards come out.
So that was intentional. The reason that when we moved report, where the report cards are and the conference days was so we could go, hey Tracy, I just want to let you know your son has a D in math right now. We're prepping them. So if you get the report card and you're like, what's going on? We've already had a conversation with you. So that was one of the reasons that it was like that. It doesn't mean there's a right and wrong way to do it. It's just a way. So it could be done that way. With the expectation that, my expectation is, if Tracy doesn't have a son, but if she did, Tracy's son had a D, that the teacher had already contacted Tracy and had a communication, so it's either way. December is just that half day, and then you've got the vacation in there. Through the January is pretty straightforward. February is, we don't have a February vacation anymore, but we created one by making that a very long weekend for folks. So you've got the half day on the 13th, a full staff development day on the Friday. You've got the holiday on the Monday and a vacation day on Tuesday. So that gives folks a good long weekend, both staff and students. They get that good long weekend in there. So they're technically not a full week off in February, but there's days off there. March is school, school, school. April has an aligned vacation with many, many, many districts. We finally might have this right. It used to be because of SATs, people would move the April vacation to a different time. It doesn't exist anymore that way, so it should be okay. May, you see the long weekend is, and then the half day on a Friday. And the last day of school would be the 16th. That'd be the 182nd day for students, where state law requires 180 days. If we had a boatload of snow days, that would bump out. If we did not have a boatload of snow days, and it was May, and you said, why are we coming back to school for a half day on Monday? That's kind of silly. Let's just cut it to 181. You could do that, and then the last day of school would become 13. So that is the draft calendar as it stands right now. For me, the impact in there is really around the half day PD times. Super, super important.
Just it should say June 2025.
You're right.
Mhm.
I can't tell you the number of times we count these days to
I know,
go through.
of course.
Yes, June 25. Thank you.
So going back to October, now, so it is the 4th and not the 11th, that's the early closing? Okay,
It's where we put it. We were kind of toying with both. It could be the 11th. We were back in, I can't remember why. It might be tied to goals, to be honest with you.
okay.
I'll ask the admin team if there's a feeling about that October 11th instead of 4. Typically, we would do that. We would tie them together. So I wonder if that could be a mistake on our part. I'm not sure on my office. I'll check on that.
When you talked about the 4-day weekend, that kind of contributes
It does.
to that.
Yep.
Did you break down Labor Day?
What was the wrong date?
You have the 3rd, it's on the 2nd. But it's right on the calendar on the left-hand side.
Okay, perfect. Oh, gotcha, in the middle. Yeah, yeah.
And then, this is a little bit off topic, but are we gonna be providing childcare for those days, extra days?
Great question. So we have budgeted, when we budget, we've been doing this for a couple of years now. We've been budgeting for full days for parents because we're legally required to provide professional development for them as well. So we will continue childcare. We're maxed out right now at like 44, 45, but there's nobody on the waiting list.
Right.
So every person that's asked for childcare on those half days has got it.
Excellent.
And it's worked out. So, which is again, the intent, so. So this is a draft. You don't approve this tonight. It's our first go around. You can think about it. I'll bring this back in January. You could approve in January or, depending on what feedback we get. I don't think you should go beyond February because you want to let people know, the people that like to book the cruises and things, the bigger vacations, like to know in advance. So that's not me.
When you talk to your principals about the November half days before Thanksgiving, you mentioned making the 25th and 26th full days with the 27th half and conferences, is that what you said?
So in 27th is just a straight half day, no conferences that day. I think what they're requesting, instead of doing, they would be moving the 20, this is the one thing I remember from our conversation. They would look to move it into December and tie it to that half day on the 6th.
Oh.
So it would be the 4th and 5th. It'd be 3 half days, just like it is now, but it would be 4, 5, 6. 4th and 5th would be conferences. The 6th would be early release for PD.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
is the staff requesting that?
It was conversation, and so I'm not sure. I think it's just a busy time for everybody. We were trying to maintain, though, some continuity in November, because it used to be all over the place. If you move those. We used to have PD in November, full PD day, I think. We had 2 early release days for conferences, and then we had the holiday and the half day before. So it was like, did we go to school in November? It was so choppy. And we've tried to avoid that. That gives you 3 strong weeks in November, the way it is right now.
Are there any other questions at this point? you're going to go ask some questions.
Yeah, I'll get some more information for you. If you have any feedback on, just shoot me an email on what's there. I can look at adjustments. If you pick up any other errors, we go through that 1,000 times, just the way it happens. So before it's published, we'll make sure it's on the film, it's good to go.
All right, we are moving on to the student representatives. No, not yet. Committees.
Committees,
8E.
do you want to talk for a second?
I would love for you to recap the titles of the 4, I think.
So,
And
Yeah, so you have 4 standing committees. And the standing committees that you have are committees that the chair can appoint. Typically, there's been conversation to do those things to figure out who's where. That's policy, finance, transportation, and facilities. The prior board decided that everyone wanted to be on facilities. So if something big were coming up, you would all want to be part of that conversation. You could change that if you wanted to. Then the way you change that is, really if there's facility items, and I'll give you an example, a roof project. And the facilities group, wouldn't necessarily need to meet. If you could shuffle that to the finance group to approve a bid, because they'd go through the bids and approve it. That would still come through the full board at a meeting, but it would be the finance subcommittee that would be doing the review to bring to the full board. You wouldn't have to do that, but I would still bring all of those items to the full board if you left it the way it is. So those are your 4 standing committees. They can have a max of 3 members. I learned something at the CABE conference, legal. And one of the things I went to, that other members are allowed to attend, but you cannot participate. So if you had 5 people attending a policy committee, even if you were an alternate, the alternate is the 4th person. If the 3 main members are there, the 4th could not participate. So the 3 could be, have their committee meeting, with me, and then the rest of you could watch. You cannot participate. And I think the words of the attorney were, don't say a word. Cause that's where you put yourself at risk. Just stay on mute, set your Zooms up so that you're there. The ad hoc committees, which are a little odder, and don't necessarily meet as much, are negotiations. We have 2 negotiations in next year. That is the teachers and the paras, 2 separate unions, teachers and paras. Clubs is this another ad hoc. You have a wellness committee that doesn't meet very often. You have a security committee that is typically 1 person, that is the chair. And I would request that you make it 1 person, because that's a very large committee. That is our school security team. And make it your rep, because that's stuff we have to sign off on. And then you have your curriculum committees. So,
Can you list those ad hocs again?
yeah, so I'll be honest with you. Instead of you just going through this, I'm glad to share a draft, and you can laugh at me and change anything around you want. I just threw names on and tried to distribute R&Ds. I tried to distribute so that everybody was on a couple of things that I think you have interest in. Arthur's made comments about policy before, Ann's been on curriculum, things like that. Do you want me to I can show you a blank draft, or I can show you a draft and you can change anything you want. I was trying to give you a starting point, which is I think what I typically try to do, but I don't want you to look at it and go, why did you put me there? There was nothing intentional, just like I threw the names out today, and it just worked out. That's up.
Makes sense. Oh,
What do you mean?
go ahead. It makes sense to start with a draft. I mean, at least from my perspective, since I'm new here.
Yeah, I don't mind starting with what you thought and then we can change.
And just start with the standing committees and go through that and then address the ad hoc.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, think about what club, what group you really want to be a part of the most, everybody, and then which one where you don't feel like maybe you have so much to offer.
And this is
Drum roll you, go ahead.
a draft. You move wherever you want. I just want to remind you, policy says chair can place you. So just remember that. I don't know that she wants that. This is my swing. Oh, how long? Nothing to see here.
Okay. Policy and Brianna Arthur, Finance, Brianna Jen John, Transportation, Samantha John, Tracy, Facilities, everybody.
And if you're not doubled up here, you got it on the bottom.
Policy art.
You want to see the full thing? Is that helpful?
Yes, please.
Sorry, this is gonna get smaller. There's my random swing.
I'm fine with where I am.
You want to go person by person? Arthur, what do you want to?
Why is your negotiations ad hoc separate from finance? Why wouldn't your negotiations be held by your finance committee?
So it's negotiations is like, typically. You just, that group meets, much more often and it's separate than your finance. Typically, the finance is more around bills. This year, I'll tell you, the finance group is gonna be meeting with me around, here's what my plans are to address the shortfall. Negotiations is just strict to that you start negotiations when you're done, that ad hoc is done. Whereas finance typically is throughout the year.
And the negotiation ad hoc is teacher and paraprofessional, so it's not just finance, it's things like how many meetings they have to have in the evenings, and.
Right, but you are almost directly tied to finance because you're negotiating essentially their pay.
But that's only a part of it.
I
There's a
understand it's
whole
a
lot
part of it, but
language.
I think you have too many ad hoc committees when you could be combining what you have and you could.
The one other thing to consider is availability, because generally the negotiations is often held after school. So if there's someone who has longer work hours, and not that that would be a reason to determine it, but it's just a consideration.
There's a chance during that hot season that you could have 3 meetings for different purposes. WEA contract, WESS contract, and a typical finance meeting. I think that's the only reason I see that.
Well, yeah,
Big bump, but-
we just run through, you got an entire month where everybody's here for every week, so it's not like
Right.
you're unfamiliar with that.
Sure.
And can you expand on the wellness ad hoc committee?
Yeah, so we have a wellness policy that we're required to meet on. We have a group right now of teachers that Aaron spearheaded and administrators that we're working on. Basically trying to apply for a reward, and the wellness committee addresses air quality, the food in the cafeteria, exercise. It's a variety of things, and so if you've ever heard of Tools for Schools, like there's a whole bunch of surveys that we have to do that are around air quality and ventilation. We just chose our survey tool, and there's a whole questionnaire about food that's served, and it ties to the remember when we did the national lunch, the vote on what we serve? I think you were on the board at that time.
Sounds
Like,
familiar.
we weren't gonna serve like after school hours, we weren't gonna serve, sodas and.
No, I wasn't on the board yet, but I was at that meeting.
Okay, so it's addressing all those types of things as well, and making sure that you're following your wellness policy. So that group, it doesn't meet a ton. I don't think clubs honestly met a ton, but that's also up to you. If you want to address more, clubs are flying at Hall. Clubs are not flying at Center. So if that's something that the board wanted to take up, something that you could look at.
Alright, Oh, go ahead.
I should just raise my hand and wait for a call. I just would love to move around a little tiny bit. The standing committee is fine. I would love to be on, the wellness if that's, people aren't clamoring to be on that one.
Is there anyone that doesn't want wellness?
I was wanting to be on negotiations since I was on finance, because I agree with Arthur a little bit that they are very similar. And I've done a few negotiations in the past, so I'm versed in it. On the other side, not this side that I'd be on. Yeah,
And you've been around that block several times, so you should stay.
I really enjoy and I contribute to negotiations, having been on both sides of the table.
What's great about this is that whatever is discussed and decided comes back to us all anyway. So again, for me, it just means that people with the most interest, skill, background, and are gonna put our best foot forward in those topics, I think is what's important. So,
I didn't do alternates on the ad hocs either. If you
should there
noticed.
be, can there be?
You could meet in a group of two, you have no power until you come back to the full board anyways.
Do we need an alternate for negotiations? Perhaps that could be John? Arthur, I'm assuming you want.
No,
you wanna
John can
continue?
switch with me because I'll be on personnel for region, so I'll handle negotiations that way.
Okay,
That's fine.
Can I make these changes live? Are you
Yeah.
okay with that?
yes.
So this becomes
So then
John,
do we have somebody?
and then John, can you dump wellness for,
I think
Jen?
Arthur, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
John, well,
or Arthur? I'm just going at what people were looking
that's
for.
true, yeah. that's
Jen
true.
wanted wellness.
I'm
No, that's fine.
pretty much.
so Jen,
Yeah, that's
Well, would you trade curriculum, since it's John or Jen for curriculum for Arthur to be on curriculum?
I would think that's a good idea. So Jen would go to wellness, Arthur would take my place in curriculum, or Jen,
fine.
or both.
Sure.
Yeah, good.
That sounds good to me.
Did you want?
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine.
I didn't hear you say, I want curriculum. Arthur's like, oh.
In the end, you have to read it anyway, right?
No, I'm not.
When we have our final vote.
No, I'm just focused on policy, so.
So then, Arthur, you see the connection between finance, including the alternate and the negotiations, right? We have like a continuous person there. Do we have to have ad hoc? Do we want, alternates for that?
That's up to you.
So do you wanna, what do you all think about, adding an alternate to ad hoc so we can make another connection between the negotiations and finance, since that was something that some of you thought was important?
I just want to ask a question about alternates. What is the alternate sits in the meeting but isn't allowed to speak? Is that what you said, or?
So if we basically go through and Brenda schedules, she calls Ann, John, and Brianna. Brianna can't attend. And by the way, Brianna can go to any, there's your name again. Oh, there it is. She told me. As chair, if she can't attend, then she actually can attend anyone she wants as a chair. She's,
So then why is my name on
because you wanna be assigned to stuff, so that way you can, otherwise you can't participate. That still falls in
Oh,
the
I
rules.
can go, but I can't.
So
Okay.
you can attend, so from the way I understand that,
Well,
yeah,
anyone could attend any of them, you said.
Yeah.
correct,
Yeah.
right. But without the alternate, let's say, and that's a bad example, Arthur, Samantha, Jen, clubs. Arthur can't go. Without an alternate, she could just say, I'm going, I'm the chair, I can do that.
Yeah, but with the ad hoc, you don't need a quorum,
I was just about to ask
You never
if
have a quorum. You,
Right,
no,
so-
there's
Because
no
that's
such thing as
no
a
limit.
quorum.
because you had said we could have two people.
You
if we
could.
wanted, so we don't necessarily need an alternate, but just for the sake of.
Correct, if you
People
wanted,
being
you could
involved.
assign alternates to certain ones if you want, and not others, that's up to you.
So I have a question on the ad hoc committees. Why why assign alternates and not just leave them as, here are your three core ad hoc committee members, but anybody else can be there, because ad hocs don't fall under the same rules as regular committees, do they? Because you have standing committees which fall under the can't speak rule.
Honestly,
Ad hocs, I didn't think they did.
The
they
only
do,
reason
they
I-
still posted, they're still, that you can't have a quorum.
I only asked about adding alternates to the ad hoc, Arthur, because we wanted to make the connection between finance and negotiations. So I was trying to see if there was more than one person who could do both. Like right now, we have John doing both.
Yeah.
Which is great, you know what I mean? I was trying to build a bridge there with the people that attend, so that, if you don't think it's necessary, I don't think it's necessary for the ad hocs, but it's up to you all what you.
The other point is the alternate would speak if there's one other person absent, whereas the other members attending would not be allowed to speak. But the alternate would have that right
Would be
if
part
the
of the
person
meeting.
is absent, right?
Mhm. And you don't want, if you don't identify it. And two of you show up and it's not identified, who gets it? That's why you identify those things.
Okay.
The caution I gave you, the only one, there's two, sorry. Security, I don't think you should have an alternate. We wouldn't schedule a meeting if the chair couldn't attend. The negotiations one, I also think coming in, if you miss the first two meetings because you were an alternate and then you come into the third meeting and you're like, what is going on? You're not gonna know what's happened up that process. I'd rather see you, the two people that could attend, just maintain that and leave that open spot as opposed to bringing in an alternate that might not have any idea what has happened the prior two meetings.
And that's also extremely confidential, so negotiation, so if you limit it to the people that are involved.
We're all gonna be your stuff, right? Can we, just talk about the standings first? And see if everybody's happy or what we wanted to do there, and then we'll address the ad hocs after. Okay, so Samantha, do you accept that as a nickname?
Yeah.
Do you mind? I wanna make sure I ask you that, okay. Are you okay with where you are?
What does transportation, I mean, it sounds
That's
kind
the
of like.
contracts with M and J.
It's contract, but it's also if we have any busing issues where there's policy involved. Someone requests a stop, I deny it and say no, and it goes to the next step. There's a committee that would help process that. And it could go to the full board eventually for a decision, but I typically would never have to do that. But it could go to the subcommittee first.
Okay, yeah.
Very good, all right, Jen,
Yes, that's fine.
you okay where you are?
Yeah.
Arthur, are you happy? Oh,
Yeah.
it's a silly question now. I know you're a big fan. Oh, it's great, perfect, you'll be wonderful in those spots. Okay, Anne,
I'm good.
and John.
I'm good.
I'll tell you what, I loved being on transportation. It was, it opened up a whole new world. Okay, Tracy,
Yeah, I'm fine.
you're
Well, I
good.
did all right. I took a bit of a risk doing that.
I like it when somebody.
I was kind of ducking like, please don't throw anything at me if you don't like what I did. By the way,
I know you're. gonna say
you identify your standing committees. This is what's in your policy now. If you
I
were to
have to
change your
say-
policy, you could change it to 5 standing committees and you could create a new one. Honestly, I don't see a big difference in that. Like, you still have to post your agendas. You still can't you can discuss things and make recommendations to the full board, but you can't vote on anything. You still have to post your meetings, you know, and do your minutes.
Okay.
Can I get a schedule of when these meet?
We schedule them as we need them,
Oh, okay.
yeah, as they come up, yeah.
Are they in person, like this meeting,
Or
or?
it'd be both, could be
Okay.
either one, yeah. We just have to post it however it's going to be.
And we accept the minutes.
You accept the minutes in, correct? Yeah,
Alright.
yeah.
Okay, all right, so everybody's all set. Thank you for being willing to serve on those committees. Now we're moving down to ad hoc things. Did anybody have any more questions about the responsibilities on those subcommittees? Everybody's good?
What is security? I know
It's
it's
ours.
under the chair, but it's.
It's our school security plan.
Okay.
So it meets with like, we have a fire rep, we have an admin rep, we have a police rep. We have an admin rep, we have a teacher rep, we have certain positions we have to fill. And,
Do we have an IT rep for that type of security?
I think we do, I think Notice has a CM,
They do.
yes, yeah. Yeah, and they're the ones that sign off on our plan that gets submitted to the state.
Okay. All right, let's go back. Tracy, are you, feeling comfortable?
Yeah.
John,
Yes.
and are you good? Okay. And Arthur?
Yeah.
Oh, you already did your changes, that's why it says, okay, Jen?
Yes.
You're happy now, okay, and Samantha, are you fine?
Yes.
Sounds good, so what do I need to say? Do I have to say something magical to make that official?
No, it's awesome. I don't think you need to vote on this. If you agree, there's
We
no, you don't.
Oh, we don't.
You did it
Ring,
in a very,
done.
in a very lovely way.
Magic wand. It's a new thing I'm gonna put in.
We'll send that out to everybody too, and we'll post it.
Super. Okay, everybody's on the super subs, fantastic. Okay, well, let's go back in time to old business, item 9A, capital improvement.
We didn't get there yet.
Oh, sorry, we haven't?
No,
My apologies, where are we? Oh, student representatives, I would love to have Board of Education student representatives.
let me just start, Arthur, and you can jump in. So Arthur requested that, this to be on the agenda and that the board consider adding a student rep, to the board. I basically, we had a quick conversation when he was volunteering in the cafeteria. I would support this. I pulled some policies from, a variety of towns. Some of them are really, full page, lots of content. Others are like three lines. You would want a policy around this. I think it's a great idea. My comment to Arthur was, I would ask you to consider a middle school rep and an elementary rep. I would ask you, and the policy committee would be the ones to form this and bring it to the full board. This could be one of the first things that policy group could do. I would ask you, you would need to set things like, hey, they don't attend executive session. They could just provide a report and leave, so they don't have to stay till 9 o'clock. They don't get all the materials that you get. It's like a feedback loop, really, which I think is a really, really positive thing. I think that's how my niece is on Region 19. And it's positive, and I talked to both principals would be interested in helping identify someone. I don't see the elementary student being in person, but they can easily work with a principal to record something, to share out, hey, what's going on at my school, things like that. And I think those are great ways to both promote the school and promote the student voice. So that's my 2 cents. I think it's a great idea. I'm not sure what else you want to share.
So this was an idea I got from, it's something that they do at EO. They have 2 student reps. I ran this by MK when I was in Hall for another reason, but I had wanted to grab her and I wanted to run it by her first because I wanted to see if it was even feasible before bringing it to the board. The reason I think this would be a really good idea is, one of the student reps from EO actually ran and was voted on to the Region 19 Board of Education, and it was 20 or 21 or something. So it's not gonna be that level of exposure, but I know that kids in 7th and 8th grade, and I was only thinking about middle school at the time, but I don't disagree with you. I think it's a good idea, but, at that time, you're kind of starting to learn a little bit of civics and how things work, and it might be, honestly, it just might be good public safety exposure for some of these kids who just might want to take that next step. And MK had already identified a couple in her head when we were talking, that'd be prime candidates for it. And if the video idea is something that the middle school wanted to do as well, I mean, they have that entire TV room, so
Right.
they can be put to use there too, or they can be here. And the nice thing about this is, I know the kids at EO, it's high school, they can drive in there, but EO doesn't do doesn't do interactive Zoom, but we do. So their parents wouldn't have to bring them here if they were gonna speak live, they could just speak on the computer. So, I just wanted to bring it to the board to see if it'd be a good idea for anybody here before it even, I'm not gonna obviously say it has to be done and you can't do that, but I wanted to bring everybody in hopes that everybody would support it and then we can move forward with writing a quick policy for it and get it off the ground, but I didn't want to. I wanted to go to Mary Kay first because it might not have even been feasible on the school level before you bring it here, but.
Yeah, for the foundation.
Yeah, I've really, since I've been on Region 19, I've really enjoyed hearing from the students, and it seems like we haven't had the same ones all the time.
No.
Yeah, so it's kind of a rotation, and I agree that there's a lot of positive, outcomes from them helping develop their communication skills. It's a different perspective hearing it from the students themselves than from hearing it from faculty or even parents. And they typically don't stay the whole meeting, that they typically, so it's usually in the beginning of the agenda, and then, obviously they don't want to stay the whole meeting, especially younger children, but I've really enjoyed it. I find it very valuable, and you get to see things from their perspective and see what they're excited about, like with EO, it's a lot of sporting events, a play they just did, and so it's fun to hear it, and I think, like I said, that there's a lot of really good developmental aspects from it, from giving the kids that type of exposure and opportunity. I think it's very positive.
Go ahead. Yeah, we've had students help us with policy. They help write the dress code at the middle school. I also wonder about the connection with the student government or kids that are involved in the student government, because there is something like that at all, I guess. Okay, thank you. Perhaps kids that are involved in that too could share things they're talking about as their school leaders.
With the principal then, did you say, and we already had some students in mind, how would?
She was, well, the first thing she thought of was the student council, like some of the reps of the student council.
Okay, yeah.
Like she didn't tell anybody, but she said, I already got a couple in my head right now, that would be perfect, so.
And you need parent consent, of course.
Some policies write in like that you have to kind of campaign in your school and you have to get voted in by your peers. Others are, you have to be in 8th grade and you have to be on the student council. Others are administrator can work with any student that they want and it doesn't have to be an 8th grader and then bring them in. So there obviously is parent consent to it, and so that's why I say the policy spells all of those things out, and I would share those details as a draft policy with the committee, and try to explain the why that's there. If you miss 2, or if you're going to miss and you don't provide, communication, there are policies that say like you have 1 warning and then you lose an opportunity. Like they're all over the place. So it depends on how specific you really want to get in your policy. Most of the policies I think are written for high school. But we could write a student friendly policy that meets your needs as a board. And we could easily draft that. I mean, we could probably draft that by your next meeting, honestly.
I just have a quick question about, the makeup of the student representatives. I feel like there's a subset of kids that will get picked all the time, or that will volunteer all the time, or have a voice at this table. It would be great to think about how you reach the other kids and how they're represented also.
Right.
I don't have an answer, but I think it's important to think about.
The diversity of the groups.
Yeah, I wanted to say the same thing,
Oh, sorry.
that, no, just feeding on what you said. So for EO Smith, we never have the same students twice, and it's interesting to see the different demographics, whether it's socioeconomic, gender, age even. We've had a couple, I think, freshmen, we had some sophomores, juniors, you know what I mean? So I think that's interesting to get different perspectives. My vision of it for what something to take into consideration for the policy is that I don't think it should be limited to council or to whoever. I don't know how you'd reach that, but maybe people would build up courage and be like, yeah, it's kind of cool, you know what I mean? And the adults are actually listening to us, you know what I mean? So I think that over time, we would get more involvement as it becomes a positive experience Perhaps,
If we had snacks, then.
right?
So we could even have like a spotlight on our agenda. A spotlight in schools.
You
and-
would, that's, yeah.
So it could be anybody, like when they come back from Washington, they can tell us about that, or the kids that win the.
So we could do a lottery or something if people want to, you know, pick a name out of a hat type of thing, and if you are interested, you can drop your name in a suggestion box type of thing, if they wish to have anonymity, however you say that word,
It might be good to look at agendas too and see what kind of topics are coming up and then provide the topic to the schools so that then they have something more specific to talk on. It's also great to have a student show up once in a while and tell you something they love about their school or something that they would like to be different. That's okay too. So maybe find a balance between
Yeah.
which students are chosen, how they're determined,
Yeah.
and giving them choice to speak on what they would like to share, and also us maybe giving them prompts or topics too.
It should come through policy though, just so
Right,
you
yes.
have, so that policy group can pull it together
Yep.
and we can get a draft.
Did you wanna say anything?
I just think it's a great idea, and, I've seen it in other schools, I don't know. It's good that you brought it up for us, and I think it supports our kids, supports the development of our kids, but also some of those qualities we're trying to get at in the of the graduate as well, and this. I think kids are becoming more aware now than we were younger because of all the media, but I still think kids younger, the more we have them be involved in their community and see how things work, the better adults they become.
That's why we're sitting here, isn't it? For those people. So, yeah, thank you, Arthur. That's awesome. I love it. We can't wait to get that done. You're on the policy.
Yep. Yeah. We'll schedule.
Super. Okay. So that's coming up hopefully in the policy subcommittee's first meeting. Great. Okay, are you ready now for 9A?
Are you ready for 9A? This is a better question, boy.
You wanna give Joe?
Yeah.
Take a drink, please.
Yes. Are there cups over there today? Michelle?
I brought a bottle.
Oh.
No, I went over there. I might have bring tea when I have to do it.
Nah, you're fine. You didn't go to go.
Okay,
Do you have, 37 items on your HMS? Did it print out with 37 and 32 on center?
37 and 32, yeah.
I just realized, I'm like, I wonder if it made it onto one page.
okay. Give me a minute.
I would just let her know that.
Right.
Okay, you're ready. Wonderful.
Okay, so, this is a lot, first off. So if you find spelling errors, whatever in here, let me know. This is double, the list has doubled. There's a lot of projects in here. There's probably still some projects that don't exist on here yet. But there's a lot. So let me just explain first what I did. This is the list, for center. I started this as I became superintendent to try and put it into the 5-year picture for just the way that the capital improvement committee does, okay? I kind of used my sense of, the priority level based upon your feedback. it's a PDF now, but if you want me to change something to priority, if you wanna change a year, you can. What I will tell you is we are in a very interesting time in this process. And the reason I say that is because last year was the first year that the capital improvement committee just put a flat million in without looking at like, hey, it's going to be applied to this specific project. I think that same exact thing is going to happen again. So I don't know that what you put in year one. I think you should identify your priorities and I'll explain how I did that. But I don't think that anything, honestly, year two or beyond matters so much where it is. Because they typically use the budget like, hey, we need a number for year two and year three and year 4, and year 5, but if they're just putting $1 million in each year, it doesn't matter what we have where, so that may change. So in center school, basically the priorities here are around the roof, which include the solar panels as an option, the chimney, HVAC, and plumbing. Though that's the group, okay? I put them all in year one. Not all of these items, not all items are eligible for grant reimbursement from the state through OSCGR. So the roof is, I believe solar panels are too, but I'm gonna ask that on Thursday. I've seen other districts get money for those, so I believe it is. The chimney repairing is not. HVAC is a very large grant that is due the end of this month. We're never gonna get it because we have a study. But there's the next HVAC grant is December of 24. That's what we're aiming for here, okay? So what I'll tell you is there is a very large number of projects in both of these buildings that are HVAC related. Heating, ventilation, cooling, it's a lot of projects. So when we start talking about projects, start thinking about like, some of the plumbing could be tied to this because of the heating systems. So where we have in here replace unit ventilators, where we have in here replace a boiler, it's not on the center school one, it's on the hall. Where we talk about replacing a mini split, or adding AC, all of those items should be put into our HVAC grants, okay? So you can see the priorities that are there for center. And then these are the ones for hall. So again, HVAC, owner's project manager and evaluation, the ventilation, the roof, the solar panels, and the plumbing work. It doesn't mean the other items aren't, like I have carpet in there. They made me take carpet out years ago. I'm putting it back in because to carpet a room is $6,000. And if you are going to have to remove asbestos, it's like $20,000 a room. It needs to be in the CIP plan, so I can convince of that. But it's not a priority in year one. Even though there's something in year one for, on the HMS side, it's not the priority. If you have the $1 million, you need to spend it towards ventilation in your roofs. Okay? So, hold on to your seats because this is the fun part. This is the document that you don't have because it's about 100 million gig. That's huge because of photos. Same projects are highlighted. And basically what I do is I go through and I just make it come to life. So this is something that I will share with you all via a Google Doc link. You will all be able to open it. If you have problems with it, you're gonna let me know, but it's so big I can't email it. I'm gonna just save it in Google and it's pages and pages and pages, okay? So, but I'm gonna go really fast through these. If you want me to stop, just holler. Bus entrance stair replacement, this is that we're starting at center school. Those stairs have been repaired, they need to be replaced. It's on our list, 1980. Pave the upper parking lot. Not a super priority, but we could get a permit to pave that upper section. It does flood, it's crushed millings. It works for now. It should be on the list, but it's not a huge priority. Roof replacement. Center school, very large priority. The section in blue was done in 2014. The rest of the roof needs to be redone. There's the estimate that's there was a ballpark from Colliers for us. We would get about 63.93% reimbursement. we're on year 26. That was done, the rest of it was done in 97. The section that we have right here is the section that's leaking, is there's a section, it's actually this hatch right here. Over by the gym. So that is a very large priority.
Should we do the upper also? We only got 10 years left on it
You won't get reimbursement for it.
because it's too new.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So to you, 20 years, anything after 20 years, unless you have a major problem, that's when you can reapply, but they don't want to see you before 20 years.
Makes sense.
The solar panels, the OSCGR, every conversation I've ever had with them about roofs, they recommend this. If you're gonna do your roof, you should do solar panels because you're gonna get the money back, and I believe that this is all also grant reimbursable. This is an example of a plank in Manchester, they did like 7 or 8 town buildings. And they're talking about saving a couple $1 million over the life of this project, so there's savings to do to it, there's a cost as well. So will the $1 million a year be enough is the question. That's what we're gonna have to find out. You already know the chimney repair has to be in year 1. I already talked to Board of Finance about that. It has to be in July 1. You've already approved funds for it, but I'm trying not to do it with the non-lapsing fund because we need that money to pay for special education. Okay, so that was why that's in year 1. Brick repointing throughout the building, some of it is repair, some of it's repointing. There's just a sample on the right, it's not to see what it looks like afterwards, but it's, you know, what the repointing does. Canopies, nicety, not a priority, right? We have other priorities. Window replacement, this is a priority. If you're gonna put ventilation into a building, you don't want single pane glass from 1952. This is our ventilation right now. All right, so this is the upper wing at Center School, that needs to be done. I addressed this with QA&M when they came through, and I said, look at you know, in your proposal, you could say, if you have enough natural light, we've had people say, well, take 2 panes out. Keep 3 panes height wise, and maybe you'll have some savings, or get a normal size window in there and not have so much glass. So this is something that there's probably gonna be remediation on as well. Whether it's lead or PCBs on the exterior, in the caulk or the paint.
Does it have to be like security glass
Whatever meets their code.
code, or like, does the state have us, do they require us to use like bulletproof
No.
glass? Or-
They do not, because it's so expensive.
Mhm.
You could consider a film at the time as and that's could be something you could look at. Some places will consider a film to a certain height and they'll just blend in. So if you were gonna, because that's ground level, maybe you're looking at 2 or 3 frames up that you're looking at security film. Those are things you could consider when you do the project. A lot of these prices, by the way, might not be accurate just because they're from an old thing or a new, if it is accurate, it's because I have a newer quote. Some of them, are just off the Fryer report. The window replacement in the lower wing, I'm not sure if it's gonna have to happen because we've been replacing glass all along. I brought this up to QA&M. The picture on the left is the example of the caulking. We just did this last summer. So if I've replaced the caulking and I've done the glass, do I really need to do window replacement? That's one of my questions. Rusty's answer was, if you do so many projects and you're gonna get into a full renovation for a building that qualifies you for 63% for everything, they would make you do the windows. So we'll see what happens, but we've been replacing those fog windows as we go, and that fog window is actually not even at Center School, it's at home. Right? The owner's project manager and evaluation, this is a biggie. This is super, super important. Part of applying for the HVAC grant is you have to do a full HVAC evaluation. It has to be done by a licensed professional. You've got to do that, and you should do it with an owner's project manager that's tied to then moving the outcomes forward. So, hey, we want to do HVAC and we're gonna get, we have an expert on board. But we're gonna have to get that granted. That's where you want the owner's project manager. The evaluation is done by the outside expert. So there's a lot of RFPs that go along with this process. We have to get the HVAC grant right next year so that we can get millions back. And I do think it would, if we get the HVAC grant, it would be millions between the 2 buildings. Just between heating, cooling and ventilation. Retrofitting where there's nothing right now, things like that, engineered plans, evaluating what you have. We have, you know, ventilation units right now from Hall that are 44 years old that have a lifespan of 20 years. So, yeah,
Briefly, if we're thinking about doing a large solar system project, are we taking that type of energy into consideration for
Should be.
boilers?
absolutely should be considered. You know, we have steam in the upper wing of center. Maybe this, and Matt Jensen almost got a little nervous today when I said this, but you could look to electric heat if you have solar panels, depending on what you have.
Right,
So that's why the evaluation is so critical. You need to get all of those things, but, and that's why I say when you put it into the HVAC grant, all of those things should be aligned.
Right.
And considered together, because if they're not, then I think we're missing the boat.
yeah, cause I mean, a lot of these projects, and we kind of talked about it on the walk, there was like the chimney, do you need a chimney if you don't have combustion anymore?
Correct.
Stuff like that, so it's good to not have tunnel vision and kind of look at the broad spectrum of all these projects and.
You need an oil burner if you're, you don't need an oil burner, right? And so those are things that why the HVAC evaluation is required. EO Smith, I think, just did yours or recently, so you can ask about that, but yeah, so this is really, really important. There's millions of dollars here. I don't know that we get it all, but it's a chance for us to get some big bucks back.
Okay, two questions. So that would be in addition to Rusty and his group, that's a whole other.
It's a
project,
whole
other
different
thing.
layer of evaluation,
Okay,
absolutely.
and my second thing is, if we were doing electric, would that be like splits in the rooms?
They would design it.
Or it would be a whole system? Or-
You would put out an RFP to say, solve our problem. We don't know, here's what we're looking to do, and they would come up with a design.
Okay.
And
There's
your
different
design
things
might be
you could
different
do.
than somebody else's.
There's, splits, heat pumps,
Yeah.
city multis.
And they price it out, so heat pumps might be cheaper than a full rooftop unit, like, it just depends on
Yeah.
what they're looking at, or units that do both.
That's why they're so important.
That's why the evaluation is so important, and a lot of the overlap that's in here, so like the number 11, air conditioning for the building, well, that's tied to the HVAC thing. Ventilation, it's tied to the HVAC. Heating overhaul, upper wing, guess what? It's tied to the HVAC. Playground mulch is not. There's the poured rubber surface, it's still in there. Yeah, we'll find a way to do it, right? I still don't have an answer from ARPA, they haven't had a meeting, I think, in a while, so I'm hoping that this is still on their list. If it's on their list, when we get this would come off our list.
I can tell you that right now, there is no money in ARPA, but what's holding everything up is the track project at River Road, because that is a lot of money that they haven't even got a quote for, and it's just kind of sitting there and they need to get an answer. And if that goes through for the amount of money that they predicted, we're kind of out of luck.
Yeah,
So.
they were going through all the projects, so. We'll see. I put playground equipment in here, I think it's important, at this 20+ years, I have no idea how old the playground stuff is. I know the smaller unit at center was put in when I was a teacher sometime in the early 2000s, but the other older unit, the taller unit has been there since at least 2000, sorry. So it's 20+ years, so I put it in here just as an example. As I was looking for this, I saw a sample playground with a covered area. We don't have a lot of-
There it is.
It was kind of cool. And then you got Adams Adventure, which is an unbelievable place in town, so. Whole school generator, this to me is low on the list, but it should be on the list. I learned today that our generator at Hall School, I think it's 17 years old, and we've used it for 550 hours, something like that. They're good for like 25,000 hours. I don't know if it's worth what you get out of it. Are we really, is this a high priority? In my opinion, it's not. I keep this in year 5 often, so. This is a high priority. This could be a school security grant at some point, but you have to have the funding to back it up. This is a double vestibule. I've talked to you a lot about this. The left is just the example. So the person basically gets buzzed into the first section, then they get buzzed into the office. The buzzing into the office, you are behind ballistic glass. Both of our buildings are set up for this, just need some adjustments. It would take some adjustment spaces. That's all you think. So that's there. The clock system is still on the list. We have found a system, that is tied to electronic statements and things, electronic messages, lockdowns, things like that. So that's on the list. That could be tied to a school security grant. The shades are new. This is an estimate. The shades are important for our school security plan. Some of the shades are in really rough shape. And when we started talking about life, we were like, oh, 1980. So shades in classrooms that are 43 years old, we think.
Well, if you're gonna change the windows, you're gonna need to,
That's where you would make the adjustment. So
so many connections.
Yeah, the other reason they're important is some of the rooms get very hot, and if you pull. the
if we have
shades
AC, that might help.
Oh,
And
that's
if we do
good.
new windows in that upper wing, that would also help because single pane glass doesn't, the regulation right now doesn't exist. So the blinds are on there. They have to be fire retardant. They are ridiculously expensive. For wearing.
Just one thing really quick that I wanted to mention with the windows is like when an engineer specs out sizing for HVAC, when windows take a big consideration for tonnage and stuff, particularly for cooling, so we could lessen the amount of windows that we have. Obviously, the bigger units you're buying, the more expensive it's gonna be, so if we have so much square footage of windows, they take that into account, you know what I mean, so if we don't necessarily. If we could do, I know HVAC's top on the list, but. It would be a shame to spend so much extra money on extra tonnage, which if we're gonna lessen the windows later on, you don't need it, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know if I'm overthinking it, but
No, I
I
think
just
I
wanted
think
to
it's
bring
a
that
smart
to your
move.
attention.
No, I think it's a really smart move, and I'm going back to this
I don't know if
because
you
I'm
thought
thinking
about
about
that.
timing. So I think, this is grants are slow, just so you know. So if we applied in, December, I think it's gonna be an end of December grant application for 24. I heard we would learn by, July 1, which then you can't do anything in the summertime, it's too late, which means you're looking at, did I get it right, 26, a 26 install, 25 install? 25 install. So what I was trying to do is, and I might need to back it up a year,
No, sorry, I'm wrong, you're right.
26. I put the windows in that year. But we
Yeah.
probably, we could consider, and this is why the $1 million is really important. Because the way they're doing the $1 million, they're just looking at our projects and you're making the decisions based upon priorities. We know what's priority, HVAC and roofs, but if the windows, if we were planning, if we hired someone and said, you need to tell us what we're gonna do with our windows, do the drawings. So that way, when we planned the HVAC, we knew what we were gonna do and then you do it at the same time. That's why I was trying to line it to that
Yeah,
year.
I
bumped
mean,
it
I
up.
don't know how much, obviously, the single pane, which, because they're talking about the heat loss through bodies in the room.
Yep,
Electronics, windows, doors, what is it facing north, you know, all
yeah,
these
all
different
things,
things.
yeah.
Take into consideration with the manual
Whole
J.
window,
they
yeah.
call it, so,
they're reflecting
if we could
material.
do windows first, I think that'd be advantageous for future HVAC.
So could be something that you choose to bump up right now, I'm not seeing the fall school, sorry. You could bump that up to year 2 if you wanted. Again, honestly, if it's just $1 million at a time, your $1 million might disappear on the 2 roofs. It's probably gonna be close, the first $1 million is probably gonna be your roofs, and you might not have enough. The second million is the start of all the HVAC, and it just depends on how you prioritize and how much money we think we're gonna get. They might need to put, I mean, look at, we're saying $1 million, I think Coventry's was 6. So that's a bond, that's not a,
I just
So-
wanted to bring it to you guys.
no, I think it's a really smart move.
Something to think about.
And the weird thing about the grant reimbursement for windows, by the way, it's only on the construction. That's the only thing that's reimbursement. Figure that out. Fire protection is on the prior report, that's sprinklers. I put it in here. I'm keeping the plumbing work, another 20,000 at a time. We're just gonna keep plugging away at those things, pun intended. The bathroom upgrade was on the prior study. And I think it should be something that's considered. It might not be as much as what's there if we could keep plumbing, keep the plumbing on our forefront of fixing things. The oil tank, which I thought this price from Fryer was just crazy money. It's a lot because our hall school tank was small, was larger. It didn't cost as much. We have to do that by 28. The only thing I can think of why they said this costs so much is because we are very close to wells, because of where this tank is. They might have additional things that we're required to do, and that tank is inspected and it has to come out of the ground. We can't get any extension.
If we did the, HVAC and the windows and that whole electrical upgrade, could we eliminate the oil tank?
Depends on the project. You would have to, I mean, if you identified a way to do that, it takes out the recurring costs and us watching the fuel prices every year and trying to lock in at just the right time. But some of this is just timing and how much money you have at that time.
I mean, depending on the material of the tank, a lot of times you can't just abandon it either, you have to,
Well, we'd have to take it out.
We-
wouldn't
Right.
have to keep using.
You would have to
we wouldn't
replace it.
Replace it,
right?
and continue to use oil.
So- The septic field is in there for center, that's just the map. We did do a new tank last, 2 years ago, I think, 2020. It's still, at some point, it has to be on our list. I don't know if it would be that much money now that we've, after we had the issue, we replaced the tank, but it's there. Entrance doors for ADA, that is, think about the push button to have a door open. We had ADA project in the 80s and we're not ADA compliant across the building, so it's there. The building bump out for the new hydraulic elevator, I put some samples in. This is the middle picture is the space we have now where it was. Apparently it's not wide enough. There's a sample on the left and a sample exterior lift on the right, just as examples, but we need a solution for that. Carpeting, I already mentioned that, I put in here $12,000. That covers about 2 classroom carpets a year. It's not enough if we start a room with asbestos. If we were gonna pull carpet out of a room and it's gonna peel the tile floor up, we have to do an abatement project. We have a plan, but again, that's why I said, there needs to be a plan for that.
How much are the abatements at the moment?
We were ballparking $20,000 a room with the cost of the abatement and the carpet.
No reimbursement on abatements.
Not unless you do a renovation project and it's your whole building. That's the bonus of why you do a full renovation, because then everything, for the most part, is 63% reimbursable. The piecemeal way we have on our CIP chart there, very, very few things. And you're gonna hear this from Rusty. He's gonna tell you very few things are reimbursable. Stair treads are on there. It needs some love. Floor tile, we put some asbestos abatement in here. So we put the carpet on top of the tile up here. The tile's in good shape. The asbestos is underneath. It's sealed, it's waxed. It's not an issue, but as soon as you pull those things up, it has to be taken care of. Acoustical ceiling tiles, I cannot believe the prices that were on the Fryer report. It kind of made me want to be honest with you. Super, super, super expensive for both buildings, but there's sections at the center that were done because we had a flood and it was done through a claim, but so it might not be that costly, but ceiling tiles are expensive. I did have a question for Fryer and I'll ask QA&M. Certain ceiling tiles have asbestos in them and that might be something they're considering if they're pre-1980. And so if that's the case, that might be why that price is so high.
Do we have those tiles throughout that might have?
So that section is 1980. And it's not supposed to have it in it, but there was asbestos in the glue. So until you would have to test, you would have to test. The electrical update was in the Fryer study. The light fixtures, I almost fell off my chair. We did the light fixtures to this 2 bulb system, used to be a 3 bulb system. That was in 2013. That was that Siemens project that we're paying for another 7 years. 4 years after we did that, they were already like LEDs are way better. So as we replace our lights, because they used to be free, they're not anymore. We're actually buying a light bulb that's LED that doesn't require you to change the ballast. Some of them have changed the ballast, but from what I understand, you can get specific light bulbs that are like $50 a bulb. But we did it in front of Steve's office and we haven't had to touch those bulbs for years and years and years and years. So that price, I don't know how realistic it is. Hall School, you're gonna see a lot of the same type of things. So there's the HVAC, the owner's project manager. They are two separate projects. You've got the ventilation in there. There's a sweet picture of ventilation for our classrooms that have the ceilings or the windows that go out by the road. Air conditioning's in there. The library AC is in there. The air handling units that are in the attic, again, tied to ventilation. The unit ventilators were done at center school in the downstairs. They were not done at Hall. So again, this would apply into your HVAC grants. So you'd have to plan for that again if you use that type of system. The boiler would qualify. So there's a lot of items right there that if you get if you buy the boiler by yourself, you're not getting 63% reimbursement. If you do it through the HVAC grant and you get the grant, you get the reimbursement. The front entrance stairs, this is a new one. We discovered that recently. We think they're original to the front of the building, and there's sections that are off that have just sunk. The brick is in really rough shape. It's curved, and they just have to be redone, reset. I'm saying just. Sidewalk landing, this is before we did the patch. You can see the patch over here. It's actually holding very well. We do have other spots that are starting to chip away. It's gonna, at some point, we're gonna have to do that. But if Public Works needs to come out and cut a section out and we can pin it right, we will do that again to buy us more time. The parking lots, the vendors have said it's not worth you chip sealing anymore because it's not gonna do anything. It's in too rough a shape. I could probably fit my shoe in that one there on the right. That's both across the street and behind the building. This came out of, I didn't realize this was in the Fryer report. It is also, this is the picture from the QA&M report. To do a new bus loop and reorganization. This is the picture that QA&M had come up with when they drew maps when we were considering options through SBC. So putting an island in, making a specific bus loop, just some ideas there. The roof obviously is a big priority. This is an entire roof project. Every single section needs to be redone at Hall School. There's when it was done last, the sections that are 85, 86, that's the shingle section. And we don't know the shape of what's underneath. We don't have leaks, but they described it as spongy, which is never good. Again, solar panels. You've got brick repointing. Hall School is not as bad, I don't think, but there's a lot of area. So you've got some sections that need it. The canopies, again, a nicety, but it's there. The window replacement, we've done the same thing we're doing at the center. We've replaced the fog windows. This is the one fog window that I know about in a stairwell that nobody typically uses, but it's on our list. So we'll see what the facility study says as far as doing this. However, we should do the caulking. So that is on the list, but we want to see what they say about the windows. If they say, no, just keep replacing the glass and caulk it, that's what we'll do, and that's great. But the caulking is what we've done at center school on the left picture, and you can see this is Hall School, the right picture there, that middle picture. Another double vestibule. Again, you need an office reorganization, but you get the concept. It's set up for it. Clock and PA system, again, repetitive. Shades, again, repetitive. Fire protection sprinkler system, repetitive. Plumbing work, repetitive, same concepts. Some of those have already been taken care of, by the way, so don't admire those wonderful pictures. The bathroom upgrades, I found this ironic that for whatever reason, the bathroom upgrades were not in the Fryer report. Something I saw yesterday. I don't know why. Because they definitely don't meet ADA, they need some significant work. Long-term, that's something that needs to be considered. This section is the section that's in the 1953 section. Classroom sinks, plumbing and cabinets, so there's two sections, plumbing, and then I did this one also is classroom sinks, plumbing and cabinets. Because they kind of, depending on what was needed, there's a lot of spots that have these cabinets that some of them just maybe needed fresh coat of paint, some of them need tops, some of them need repairs to the laminate. Need some love, and then the septic tank and leach field is in there. The elevator modernization's in there, that was identified in the prior report as well. That's our current elevator. It's getting harder and harder to get parts for this. If it breaks, we have a problem. Tile floor replacement asbestos, same concept as at center. Where's the abatement need to happen? There's very few stair treads that are left because we did, you spent some money last year. At the end of the year on some of those, we did a bunch of those and they came out great. HMS carpet, same concept, same amount unless it's asbestos related. This is one of the lone orange carpets left in the district. This is what I taught on, that sweet color in 2000. Lots of rug burns in PE there. I put paint in hall schools and not centers. I'll be honest with you, there's we took, when I was principal, we did a lot of painting rooms each summer. This hall school is so much bigger for them to stop and paint serious rooms, you know, lots of rooms. It's just that they don't have time to do it. And it shows in some of the work that's been done, like the picture on the left, they painted up to that line and then the top part, they stopped. So I get it. The gym curtain in the middle of the gym is on there, low priority for me. If we had larger class sizes and we were gonna have 2 PE classes at a time, I'd say prioritizing, we don't. Locker rooms are not used too often. They meet in there. I don't think athletes are using them to lock their stuff up in. Kids are probably not changing too much anymore for PE. Showers are only used for floods for sewage and the septic, but it's also if it's you know, we have an emergency and this becomes the shelter, the showers do work. Ceiling tiles, how about that price? $477,000 for ceiling tiles for Hall School. That was a Fryer report number. I took some highlights. This is where the lights used to be in the hall. And so they took the lights down, and when they put the new lights in, that's what the ceiling tiles look like. There's lots of mismatch. You've got an electrical upgrade. The light fixture replacement, $1.2 million. It's a Fryer number. I don't know, same concept. I put the whole school generator in here and it's again 17 years old and we've used it for 565 hours. I'm not sure. I think you should leave it in here, but always leave it in year 5 so that they know that if they ever want to replace it or move this to someplace else, it's seamless when the power goes out. It covers the entire building, but we're just paying on maintenance right now for it. I think some of it came through a security grant, but I would just say I wouldn't look to replace this. If it's good for another 24,000 hours, that's significant, but I think it's just good awareness for the town. I'm not sure that this would, in your 10-year plan, that probably would be in your 10.
But that ties in with the emergency too.
It does.
If we're using it as a shelter, it's important.
It's
to have
still
that.
working, right? It still have it, and I think that's how they got it, but you can just tell it's just, you know, it's. A lot of those hours are actually not hours, it just runs as a test. Yeah. Plaster repair in the library, I found this in the Fryer report. It needs some plaster repair from the leaks, and it was a $50,000 price tag on that.
Find someone to do plaster.
That could be the other issue. So I left the quote unknown because I don't know if that was before they saw leaks or not. So that is the full list. So my suggestion would be if you're okay with the priorities that have been set in the yellow or on your pages, I can present that to the CIP committee. I haven't heard about any of their meeting dates. I don't know. I've seen nothing scheduled. I'm not sure when I'm supposed to meet. Gonna kind of fight them a little bit about putting every single project into the system because there's so much overlap in the HVAC. So that's how they started using the system last year, I think, or 2 years ago. So I'm gonna have a meeting with them to see what their thoughts are, but if you're okay with prioritizing all of those HVAC items really that are become around an owner's project manager and the evaluation, they would be able to take our list and identify every single thing that we should put in there. And then help us identify a way to make sure that we have all the information we need to apply next year, which should be the last grant. We'll see if they continue it into OSCGR stuff, but it's the end of the COVID money. If we get it, but I do think that we should apply for millions, and we definitely have projects that would qualify.
Is this our $1 million? What we're,
Your first million that you have right now, priority wise, to me, is the roof.
okay,
I don't know the price on solar. If it's reimbursable, you're probably, I would think, looking at. There's a couple ways to do this. It's just about how big is the pot? What is CIP willing to put into that pot? If I find out Thursday that, solar panels are eligible, then we can find out the pricing and make sure the pot is right. So, because you would want to do the solar and the roof at the same time, because when they check off, they have to approve your roof. And all of these items are like you get reimbursed. So you pay the bill and then you get reimbursed. So you have to have the money to pay for it. The reason why the money up front is so important is on the HVAC project, is that you have to do your town votes to apply for your HVAC grant. If it's $5 million, we need to have bonds in place. So if the town approves $5 million for an HVAC project that they're gonna then get 63% back on, all of those votes have to happen before next December. Which is why I say we need the owner's rep on there to make sure we meet that timeline and they can lay it out for us. Because there's a lot to do. You have to have your drawings, you have to do all those things to get those applications in.
and this does not include anything on Rusty's list, well, there may be overlap, but.
There's
there will be
definitely, I shared this with Rusty. I didn't share, the updated version with him, which I will. Rusty may come back and say, actually, I think this is a bigger priority. We saw this and this is a major issue.
Mhm.
This is what I know from my maintenance crew, from prior years of doing this, from my principals, from feedback from taxpayers and townspeople. They want the roofs done. There's no question of that. You may choose not to do the solar, just because you'd rather put the money towards the HVAC projects. It just depends on price and reimbursement. So there's more to come. It's just a matter of, do you want anything else? I don't know that you'd have to ask for a lot of money just to get the things that are in yellow. Between HVAC and the roofs, you're already asking for millions. It's a lot of money.
How are we going to manage a project like this? Not us per se, like when the company actually comes out and does the work, what professional do we have on our side to make sure they do this work
That's
correctly?
typically an owner's project manager, or you could do an OPM. There's several things you do. I'm not sure if you've dealt with them before. Sometimes they have like a construction manager, a CM. It depends on the project and what you're looking for. If you want them there every day, you pay more money. If you want them to check on the work once a week, you pay less money.
Well, I didn't know if this is something where we need to hire somebody to have for the district for the foreseeable future, because this is a long-term project, it seems like. And
I have had several conversations that this town needs a facilities manager.
Yeah.
I'm not a facilities manager. I've just pulled together a list with some ballpark prices in it.
Yep.
Based upon things. I am dangerous enough to write an RFP now, but I'm still relying on outside professionals to do that. It makes sense to have someone who does that for a living and you can double check people's work. I'm gonna go on the roof and go, that looks lovely.
Yeah,
You know,
when we went to the boiler room, I'm saying, Samantha, tell me what you think. She's like, that doesn't look like asbestos to me. Great, I could not have told you that. You know, so you need those experts to help you through this process. The schools are only two buildings. The fire department is going through a very similar issue right now. The library is not far behind. If you've, you know, kept up with their conversations, they're going to need maintenance too, and someone that can weigh all of those things out. I don't think it just needs to be a school facilities person.
Yeah.
And my maintenance guys are great, but they're not set up for overseeing a roof project. That's not their expertise. Their expertise is the day-to-day and saying, Phil, we have an issue for this. Okay, is it small or large? Can you make some phone calls and try and get some vendors in, they'll gather those things. But when it's large, that's not their area of expertise. That's not what we should be asking them to do.
Do we have are we able to do anything to help move something like that along?
You could write a letter, the board could agree to write a letter to the selectmen to do some sort of thing as a joint budget. We share the finance office, right? We don't get charged for the finance office. It comes entirely out of town budget, but we share that office. So it could be set up the same exact way, where there was a facilities director. It doesn't mean I'm hands off, my administrators, my maintenance folks are hands off. It just means you start to look at the management of the day-to-day operations of these projects. I can't tell you how many hours of work are put into this. This is a lot of work.
Would that position be something that would be in CIP?
I think it goes into your operating budget.
Okay.
Yeah, it would go into your operating budget. The things that go into your CIP are short-term fixes, like if you wanna hire an OPM or a construction manager, CM, you build that into your dollar amount, and that stuff's reimbursable for whatever, once you get your grant, everything beyond that is reimbursable. And the state will fund those things, like they want it to go right, cause they have lots of dollars invested. But the day-to-day stuff and fixing things, this is just the management side of it, right? I'm climbing on ladders I'm up on roofs, like I'm looking at things, I'm not fixing things, but, you know, we're looking at, it's all hands on deck to do the things that Matt Jensen comes over and does our light bulbs for us here. He doesn't have to do that, but that facilities manager for all the buildings, their day would be full
And they'd have the knowledge.
to do those things.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I just have a quick comment. As a member of the CIP committee, we have had lots of opportunities to tour lots of places around town, and that's been a conversation that we've had pretty much everywhere we've gone. Facilities manager, facilities coordinator, some person that will go from place to place and be responsible for this kind of stuff, because imagine how many hours you have to do like your actual job.
imagine that.
To be a superintendent.
And I think it involves like strategic planning, it can't just be us sitting here talking about it. It can't just be the board of selectmen sitting there talking about it. It can't be the fire department. It has to be this global kind of group, I think, to have it be effective.
Where do we start?
Should we write the
Board
word?
of selectmen,
It would be a letter and it's the time to do that because we're building our budgets.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's gonna be a good year for that or not. I have no idea. But I think if the board is interested in that, and it's definitely been a conversation across multiple boards, it's come up several times. I don't think it's gonna hurt anything to write a letter.
they can always say no.
Yeah, and honestly, if they said no, you have the determination if you wanna do it for a school. You put it in your operating budget. That's like, you're looking at a joint venture.
Mhm.
But if the answer was no, you could determine that. I don't think you're gonna get a part-time person.
It's a full-time job, it seems like, with all these projects, for all the town buildings that are happening.
Well, we have so many shared services
Mhm.
that it would make sense to have this be yet another shared service. So we pay a percentage of it and the town pays a percentage of it, and the fire departments could pay a percentage of it, so that it wouldn't be as much on any one department.
Yeah, we're also looking at, I'm kind of giving you some of the budget glimpses, but we're trying to look at being creative for certain services to connect with other towns. So the behavior side of special education with BCBA's, they're expensive. And we're getting to the point where it's like, well, we could just hire our own or share one with someone like Ashford and just say, hey, we get 2 days a week, you get 3 days a week, and we split each week. And then if there's a need, there's a crisis, the person's in the spot where they need to be. As opposed to contracting out. We also could consider something like this. You have to consider salary when you start talking about these things. Because if you think you're gonna get a facilities manager who is going to be able to come in and do these things at a lower salary, it's not gonna happen. But if you get, if you can split that cost between a couple towns that are smaller, someone like an Ashford who has this school. I've dealt with a superintendent, she put in a roof application and it was denied, it was frustrating, she's gonna do it again. That's why we need these experts. And so. I think that that's another option, another creative way to keep costs down, but get service. I just don't know. If you would get enough service for the need that you have current.
I like the idea of it being a person in town, because one of the things that we had hoped when the school building committee was working to have the whole town evaluated, all of the buildings, and set up a plan for the future, how do we want to use our existing buildings?
Yeah.
Let me play devil's advocate with everybody here. I think if you're looking at one person, sharing one person for all the projects in this town because they are all hitting at once, you are going to be sorely disappointed. I think it would be in a better interest of the board if we had our own facilities manager for the two schools. Because that way, no one could pull them and say, we need them for this week, and then they lose track of one of the projects going on here, and something goes wrong, and then they have to run to the library, because the library is flooding, and then they have to run down to the fire station, because they have to meet with an inspector. I think in a town, if all these things weren't happening at once, if things were staggered, you'd have a better shot at this. But I mean, you're looking at paying somebody a whole lot of money, and I don't think you're gonna get the return. You're gonna get, at least we're not gonna get the return we want out of one town facilities manager. I think we should strongly consider adding that as a staff member for the future.
To our education budget?
So I'm just doing some quick math, so. I've had the same thought, I have those same concerns in the stretch, and it's the same concern I have about like sharing with an Ashford and just trying to make it more affordable. One of the things you could consider too is treat it like a retainer like we do for our attorney. So if you paid for a block, if you and this is where my brain goes, okay? Novus is a great example. Novus is our IT firm. We are positioned so much better than any other town right now because of the time we've spent with Novus. When we have a breach of some sort, they have their team. We have one person on site every day, but they have their team behind that one person. So it's the army. So you've got the server guy, you've got the wireless guy, you've got, the rack guy, whatever. It's like the hands-on day-to-day fixing the problems. The army, if you could buy a block of hours through an organization, and I don't even know if they do this, to be honest with you, Arthur, but like a Colliers, they have billable hours for different levels of people. If you get a senior person, it's $180 an hour, making that up, versus a newer person, it's 120. If it's something that I can write and just call them and say, hey, I need help with this, that makes my life that much easier. If they could pull an RFP and you're paying them for those things, you're, at $100,000, you're probably close to 600 hours. That could be a lot of work as opposed to paying, and you've got the army behind them. So when you need the architect, you've got the architect. When you need the engineer, you've got the engineer. When you need the, plumbing guy, you've got whoever it is, you've got an organization. It's just a different way to look at how do we get those. And then you're not getting whoever we hire. If you hired one person, that's where we lived with IT. Like the person was a power school guru. But beyond that, it was just random fixes and we didn't have the army. Now we have the army with one person on site.
I kind of agree with, what you just said, Phil, because although, so as a town, the majority of people voted to fix our schools versus building a new school, right? So because we have older facilities, there's gonna be cyclical projects. And I think that from having witnessed, effects of committed salaries on operating budget, especially new salaries added through grants and then coming up like ARPA funding that we're like, oh shoot, now we have to figure out how to cover this. I think it's a big commitment to have somebody, on staff, but then it's like, okay, well, it's kind of nice to have someone who's committed to the town as a salaried position. I'm kind of on the fence because we do have a lot of projects in our schools. I think it would be a stretch for somebody because unfortunately everything's hitting the fan at once with a lot of our different municipal buildings. So I think it is a lot for someone to be pulled in all directions and maintain that. But one thing that I was talking with Phil about too is I feel like maybe I'm being a little bit too optimistic, but once we get past some of these hurdles, it would be nice to have a maintenance schedule in place that every 10 years, we make sure we're caulking our windows, you know what I mean, doing routine things that it doesn't seem like we have right now. And I think if someone like a Colliers could get us off the floor and set us up with a maintenance schedule, once we get the big projects done, that we haven't been doing for whatever reason, I think that would, potentially help us out and be cost effective in the long run.
And of course, certainly does that on certain parts of our,
They do our preventative maintenance, but
Yeah.
they are not, they're not doing the replacements, like they're fixing, identifying things and they're smaller things, but the bigger picture, like CIP was stuck with $500,000 a year to figure out, $3.5 million worth of projects every year and prioritize it. That's how we got where we are. And so it took us 3 years to dig out of the IT hole we were in. And now we're cruising along, like we feel like we're in really good shape. I don't know how long it's gonna take us to get out of where we're at in that cycle, because we have lots of years. You walk the buildings, you see the pictures of where we're at, and that's why we've been prioritizing any dollar we've gotten to address the issues that are there, so. I mean, I can broach that subject if you want me, if you wanna write a letter, if you wanna write a joint letter, I'm glad to give you a draft. And something that we can send to the selectmen just to see what their thoughts are. If you say, no, I'd rather keep it to ourselves, I just don't know how that goes over, all of those things.
Can we just ask them, we're not saying yes or no either way, but just see where they stand. I mean, we definitely have enough for one person to be very busy just with our things and our needs. But something that I heard repetitively when on the school building committee from the townspeople was that they have a desire to look at the bigger picture and look at all of the facilities and all of the needs. And so how could someone might wonder how you could vote and support spending to fix things at schools when you have other problems that are unidentified or you can't compare them to. So best case scenario, we would have our own facilities manager and then the town would have one as well, and they could collaborate, like in the ideal world, if you ask me, that's what would be best, but I don't see that happening, of course. So maybe just ask them and see where they stand. And then we do need to have a serious conversation about that for sure. Yeah.
it was brought up at the last selectmen's meeting during present history, so suggesting a facilities manager. So I think they may be aware that. Phil, can you informally, casually chat with Q&A and Colliers or whoever you're talking to?
Just to see if anything like that
If they
exists.
offer that
Yeah,
type of
yeah, I
service?
can have.
My only thought would be, we wanna make sure it's not the company it's not the same people that are doing the work. Because we want a second opinion.
Agreed. doing the work, you have to follow the bid process anyway.
Right.
You're just basically blind, I was talking to a superintendent the other day who uses multiple legal firms depending on the issue. And so he has a block of hours, and depending on the issue, he calls the certain attorney. Different perspective, right? And you could do the same thing. You could get a block of hours with different people. It's just how many hours and how much money you want to spend, and would you use it? That's the thing. But you always would have to still go out to bid for those projects that are, $150,000. You have to follow that RFP process, and they don't get the inside knowledge on those things. So
Okay, so,
I can do that. I can have a conversation with Peter, he's been trying to get his feet on the ground upstairs, I think. I can have a conversation with him just to see if it's something that, they're interested in, having a conversation about around budget. And what if he has any thoughts on it for their plans. And I can look at, as I build our budget, and what I'm gonna present to you, I can, throw a salary in there and pull it in and out, just to see what it looks like as well.
Now, we have two, at least, or will have two people in place. We have Q and A, and then we also are looking at the HVAC. People to look at that plan. We would need another person in addition to that.
Full oversight of all projects, that's what you're looking at. The good thing for you, no offense to CIP, I think the board is ahead of the game on this, because of the SBC, because of all the work that's been done, because of the list of projects that we have, because this is our second facility study. We're ahead of the game on a lot of those things. We just need funding and someone to manage those projects. I mean, I will manage those projects, but it's,
In your free time.
do you want me to do this, or do you want me to do this?
yes,
Exactly.
Yes, we want you to do both of those things.
So Jen, do you know when CIP is planning on due dates or their next meeting? You haven't heard anything, so
I've not heard of it.
I'll find out. Typically, you would approve this in December, but I think everyone's they're still touring. I think I'd like to see you approve some sort of picture of this in January. And it's just basically what I'm gonna then present to them. I'll share with you the monster document through the link. Give me any feedback in there. I will keep, if I get any updated pricing or see things, I'll update things. If you see anything that's an error, just let me know, shoot me an email, but I'll share those things out.
I'd like to say sounds good, but sounds a little scary. We got it. Okay, that concludes item 9, capital improvement project request. So we are moving on in our agenda to our final 3 items. Number 10 being present to speak. So if anyone would like to share thoughts, questions, or concerns, you can raise your hand on screen or in person. And please just remember to state your name and address.
I'm sorry, they can't unmute the results right now.
Okay. Going once, going twice, 3 times the rule. Okay, anybody in person have anything they'd like to share?
Just because I always ask everybody to speak and now it's not fair for me not to take my turn. So Michelle Cunningham, 41 Liska Road. I just want to say thank you for approaching this so comprehensively. We've got a lot of issues to look at in terms of the building maintenance. And to thank you, Phil, and your staff for putting together 100 megabytes or how much ever space of all those pictures, because I think that'll be really helpful for folks to look at. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to board comments. I do have a question about that. Would you all like to? Do you want to have to? I guess is what I'm asking. I'd like everyone to have an opportunity to speak, of course, but have the right to pass, right? Sometimes it's a little tricky to be on the spot. Okay, and so is there anybody who would like to begin?
I will.
Thanks, Jen.
I just wanted to say thank you to the folks who participated in the most recent election. That's why I'm sitting here.
And it's an honor to be up at the table, to have these discussions about the stuff that is really important in education. And I wanted to kind of piggyback on what Phil was talking about as far as the tree lighting on Friday. It was so great to see not just the kids and the parents, but also teachers out there supporting other teachers, and Mr. Sonner did a great job, and it was just a really good feeling of like Christmas in Willington. It was pretty neat, so. Thanks.
I would like to welcome all our new board members.
Welcome to our new members, and I just, a comment about the reading waiver. It's disappointing that the state is putting all their eggs in the programs versus making a list of priorities that should be being addressed by the curriculums. And I find that frustrating because I feel like that's supporting companies, certain companies versus what we should be addressing. But I hope, well, I guess we'll see how the work goes to fit what they want us to do. And I'm grateful to be on that committee, to be able to be a part of that. And thank you, Phil, for your persistence with our roof. Seems like we've talked about that for years and years and years, so hopefully we're gonna come to a conclusion soon.
Probably be able to retire at that point.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and a lot to learn.
First, I want to say thank you to all the people who came out for the special election, 2 weeks ago, that kept me in this seat. And a special thanks to everybody who offered me to get me a hot beverage. It was very much appreciated. It was cold. There was a recent firestorm around another board, in the past couple of weeks concerning some, let's call it questionable politics. I was hopeful for this board with all the new members and the collective purpose that we're all here for. I was hopeful we wouldn't fall into the same category. I ran for and joined this board because I was disappointed in the way that it operated, and of some of its actions, but after the actions earlier tonight, I continue to be disappointed. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you for everybody who voted for me and the confidence, and I'm excited to bring a fresh and new perspective, to the board and learn a lot, and please forgive my naivety with different things, and if I ask 101 questions, I'm not afraid to ask questions, but sometimes it's intimidating because I'm like, what does that acronym mean? I don't know. So, looking forward to learning a lot and contributing what I can, and hoping that we can all, like you had said, we can all learn to work together and do what's best for the children mostly, and be advocates for our staff and faculty and facilities, so.
And hopefully give each other grace. A lot of us are learning, we're all learning something, right? Great. Okay, I did want to touch on the reading program, right, all of that. It's frustrating, but however it happens and whatever PD is required for what we end up with, that does not negate the professional development done thus far. And so I know that our teachers and professionals will do what's right for our students with a variety of resources. The ones that the state says are perfect and the ones that we know work best for kids. So that's where my confidence lies on that. Thanks to our PTA always for offering that gift shop. I have seen that function before, and it is not easy to take on a bunch of small children with giant wads of money and help them shop, especially with so many choices and a variety of prices. That scares me half to death. So thank you for your patience with that. And I love it because the kids really need that autonomy and they need to feel like they can do big things with that. So thanks. And thank you all for your patience tonight and your help along the way. I'm excited to be in this particular chair, and I'm going to do my best. And hopefully, like it has been said, we can work together. I think you all have really wonderful brains and great backgrounds, and so we can bring it all together and put the other stuff aside. We're gonna be able to do what's best for our students, and that's why we ran, that's why we're here. And just as a little public announcement, I hope everybody finds a little spark of joy as we wrap up 2023, whatever that looks like for you. Did anyone have any last comments? Great, okay, well, I'm super excited to tell you, we've reached number 12, which is time to adjourn. I believe we need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, John, do we? Okay, all in favor? Yeah, good to go. All right, thank you all. Have a good night and happy holidays.